Welcome everybody to episode 70 of the effing title. And tonight we have a new friend of mine. I only met her probably 2 months ago, month ago.
Yeah, sounds about
She
right.
she is one of the best artists that I do know. Eventually I will be commissioning her to do something for me. And like I said, she's become one of my new good friends. It is Dokuhiime, but is it okay if I just call you Doku?
Yeah, or Tina's fine.
All right. Like Tiny Tina?
Well, sure.
The only reason
I get that so often.
I've been watching E3 all weekend, and I like that whole like Tiny Tina's Wonderland, and it's kind of funny because it involves the role play, the tabletop RPG, as well. How are you doing? How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing all right too. For everyone out there that doesn't know you, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Well, as previously stated, my username is Dokuhime. I'm I know a lot of people use the term small time streamer. I just do it as a hobby while I'm in school. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of a boring person. I don't really talk much.
See, it's funny because when I first it's a interesting one because people don't really fully, or some people fully know this. This is my second time doing my podcast. This podcast. The
Mhm.
first time I did it just by myself because I was too
Okay.
nervous to ask people to come on.
I mean, I can understand that feel entirely.
But then, so since then, though, like I said, this is episode 70. We haven't missed a weekend. We haven't, we've done this every, every
Which
week,
is awesome.
and I'm just, I appreciate that. I mean,
I think that's awesome.
I've been trying to get more and more guests on, different people. I'm
Mhm.
eventually here. I'm gonna try and punch up and see if I can get a big name at some point, but I don't know
Yeah.
exactly if I will or not. Depends on how much of a coward I am. But it's funny though because a lot of people will say, like, when I ask them, because for people out there that don't know, I ask my guests for the topics because I want to learn. That's kind of my thing. Like I almost like
Mhm.
when I redid the podcast, I was like, I kind of want to do it more like Rogan, where Rogan just has a guy come in and they just talk about whatever he wants to talk about, like it's their topics, and they just kind of mind meld off of it.
Yeah, you're just learning off of like whatever they're deciding to talk about.
Exactly. So like I've loved doing this because there's a lot of stuff that I've learned that I had no fucking clue about. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender, I did that with Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Never knew anything about that. I had a whole episode, well, not a whole episode, but it might have been a whole fucking separate episode with my buddy Danute, where we talked about mental health, and me and him, like, we got deep. Like,
Yeah.
there was times when, like, I was, like, about to fucking, like, fully just, like, break down during it. And, like, it was
Mental
very...
health is one of those really hard topics, but it's good to talk about.
Well, that was the thing, is, like, he wanted to talk about it, and he's like, you okay with doing that? And I was in a weird headspace. I mean, when am I not? But I was in a really weird headspace at that point, and I was like, fuck it, let's just do it. Let's just do it. Let's just open the
Mm-hmm.
fucking floodgates. Let's open up fucking everything, and
Yeah.
let's get weird with it almost. And it, and from what I've been told from a few different people, they think that's the best episode that I've done because it's just it's the opening up and the vulnerability and actually seeing someone have the balls to do it to the level that we did.
Well, it shows that we're still human.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people view online entertainers and online personalities as something foreign, and we're still people too.
Exactly. Exactly. Um yeah, no, so yeah, it's I've been enjoying doing this. And of course I'm getting close to the 75th episode, which of course 75 has a special yeah.
It's only kind of like in your name.
Yeah, so just just a little bit in my heart, that number. Um but yeah, so for tonight though, the topics are retro versus modern gaming, psychology, where I've been promised that it will be taking, not
I'll
attacking.
be gentle.
Escobubu,
I'll be
thank you for the
gentle.
follow. I want to say that real quick. And tabletop RPG, which is another thing that I have no fucking clue about. So let's start this off. Retro versus modern gaming. This one I thought was very interesting, especially with me watching E3 today.
Oh, yeah, I haven't been watching E3 at all. I've been
So
unfortunately sleeping, so I have no idea.
I've been I've been watching it on and off.
Mhm.
depending on kind of what the day like the thing was. Like I was watching it like full on during the Xbox segment, and then Square Enix came up, and I was like, whatever, I'm gonna go take a nap. But like this is a topic that I think I've only had it once before, and it wasn't worded this
Mhm.
way. But this is a very interesting topic, in my opinion.
Honestly, same though. I grew up with retro gaming.
Mm,
It was part of what got me through like a lot of the hard points in my childhood.
yeah.
Um, and what allured me to the video games was the fact that like they didn't have great graphics, but the stories were awesome, or the mechanics were done really well. I mean, some of them were still janky, like it's why people can speedrun stuff, right? um but you don't really see a lot of that in modern games, or they're not completed.
Mm,
You're relying so heavily on DLC and stuff like that. And that's not to say that like modern games aren't good. They are. They're catering though to a different market, and you get a lot of discourse between people who are like fans of video gaming of, oh well, which is better, retro versus modern. And it really just depends on the person's interests, I
yeah.
think.
I think it's
um
also I think it's very difficult to just especially with this one because like I know there's some topics where you can go like this versus that,
right,
um,
right.
and it's
It's
very
one of those
easy.
things that you're solidly in the middle for.
Yeah, like I feel like with especially with retro gaming because like you look at it and like retro gaming you like is was just kind of it was very much thought of as a kid thing, right?
Mhm.
Whereas today now it's a multi-billion-dollar company, and that's just one.
Yeah.
Of like the 12 or 7 or 80 or however many fucking there are now these days.
Oh
I
my
mean,
god, there's so many, especially with all the indie developers.
exactly. Like it's like it's one of those ones. It's the same to me in my head. It's the same argument as saying like, well, which quarterback is the best of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not sports.
so the thing is right. So
But
like
yeah, same
yeah,
feel.
it's the same kind of thing because like no matter what, like there's offenses change, defenses change, playbooks change
Right,
depending on the
right.
quarterback in the scheme. They could either be more of a play action guy who's a game manager, or they could be the dude that's just throwing for 7,000 yards every season. Like
Mhm.
there's drastic differences, and it's the same thing with this because like the first thing I think of with this is Twitch, which obviously
Yeah.
we're on right now, and even YouTube and Facebook Gaming, and I'll even fucking throw in Mixer just for the hell of it. You know,
Yeah.
like these things have like I wholeheartedly believe in my fucking broken of hearts that Twitch has changed gaming
It has. It
because
absolutely has.
it's one of those things. Like if imagine, for instance, I'm gonna just like imagine like Anthem or the Avengers or I'm trying to think of another game that's kind of busted recently. Um, like Fallout 76. Imagine those games coming out like 10 years ago, like before Twitch was even a thing.
Yeah, think about how different those would be.
They would be like complete and utter hits.
Mhm.
Probably. I mean I won't say guaranteed, but probably. With Twitch and the whole content, everything is so content driven. I kind of feel for a lot of companies
Yeah.
because like
Well,
I go
and
go ahead. Sorry.
it's no, sorry. um well, I feel like another major factor too is like look at what high school was, at least for me. It was really the start of multiplayer is really going to be the king of everything too.
Mhm. True.
And I feel like Twitch, Mixer, Facebook Gaming, YouTube, a lot of that really lent to that market really taking hold because they want to see how good someone is against X person or this whole group of people.
Exactly. Like it's almost a different you get almost a different sensation watching it, right? Like you can get a
Hmm.
good sensation watching someone play, like for instance, like when Jagger was playing Resident Evil Village.
Yeah.
you get a certain kind of feel to yourself when you're watching someone playing through a story game, and you're getting involved in the story game,
Yeah.
versus watching like the ALGS, the Apex League Global Series, where it's just this
Mhm.
is the best of the best playing up fucking against each other. It's a completely
Right.
different it's a completely different feel watching those two
Well,
things.
you know, realistically, it probably goes back to look at how many people react with sports.
Hmm.
It's just a new version of sports. It's why,
Exactly.
you know, esports have flourished so much.
Um,
Um,
but
but you go ahead.
one of the ones I was gonna say was that oh god, now I gotta remember what it was.
Right? All right. Well, while you think of that,
Yeah, go ahead.
um, the reason why I like this topic so much is like I like to ask people like what games were like the most influential throughout their life. And while some may really like modern games and they may really like those multiplayer games, about 70% of the people I've asked this question to mention a retro game.
Hmm. Well, it's because I think that especially with our generation, and of course I'm
Mhm.
saying that, and I feel like I'm a little bit older than quite a few people. But
I mean, I'm almost 30, so I
yeah,
like I get it.
yeah, okay, good. But like with our generation, right? Like we kind of hold on to a lot of stuff. Like if I say Power Rangers, if I say
Mhm.
Pokemon, if I say Digimon, if I say of course this is getting
We're kind of the reason that those things became so successful because we
exactly.
held on to it.
And it's one of those things where I feel like that's one of those things. Like if I were to say, like for instance, just naming off a bunch of things right now: Super Mario
Mhm.
64, Banjo Kazooie,
Mhm.
Donkey Kong 64. Let's even go
Donkey Kong
GoldenEye,
64 was so good. And GoldenEye. GoldenEye
right?
was fantastic.
Perfect Dark, mainly just because they're doing a new version of it soon. I can't wait. I'm trying to think of course, I never owned a PlayStation, the original PlayStation. Instead, I bought fucking Hey You Pikachu because I was an idiot.
I
Um,
mean, but Hey You Pikachu was adorable, and I
yeah,
don't blame
but like,
you.
it was. Oh, I forgot what age I was. It was Hey You Pikachu came out, and we went to. This is back when I was in England, and my dad was in the Air Force. So we went to one of the Air Force bases, and it was either I could
Mhm.
buy Hey You Pikachu, or I could buy a PlayStation with 3 games, and it was the
Yeah.
same price. And I was an idiot,
Well,
and I bought
well,
it. Well, so this is why I was an idiot. I bought Hey You Pikachu. I took it home, and it didn't understand me, and I played it for about 20 minutes, and then I never played the game again.
okay. I mean, I guess that's fair. I didn't have like I always hear about so many people having issues with that game, and I
Hmm.
I never had any of those issues. Like maybe it was because I went to a private school or something, but and I just
You
enunciate
you
more.
have the proper vernacular.
I have the proper vernacular.
Oh, the proper
Yes.
vernacular. Spyro. That's Kabubu. Thank you. Spyro. There we go. There's one. Crash Bandicoot. I mean, there's so many of these old games that we can like talk about, and like as soon as you bring up, it brings up a different feel. Like I know for a fact, my buddy in chat, John, he saw
Mhm.
when I played this. This was before I got affiliate. This was before I did anything. I did retro. It was either retro Sunday mornings or retro Saturday mornings. I forgot which one it was. But I played
Mhm.
retro games, and I played Banjo Kazooie. And it was
Yeah.
funny. It was funny seeing my viewership for the entire week. Like I said, this was before I was affiliated. For the entire week, my viewership was at like 2, and then on that day, it spiked to 8.
Well, yeah,
And
and
it was
you know,
just
you
you,
get a lot of people who've never even seen those games now who are just like, well, what did these people play back then?
exactly. And like I feel like especially like I said earlier with our generation, like it brings out a different feel from us
It
because
does.
we see this, we start playing it, and immediately we're brought back to like being a
Our
kid,
childhoods.
playing
Yeah.
it,
Or
how happy we were, or how fucking mad we were. Um,
right? That was me a couple of days ago because just for shits and giggles, I decided to go hook up my HD version of the Genesis,
oh, okay.
and I still have my old Aladdin cartridge. And boy, howdy, is that game difficult!
Well, and that's the other thing I was going to bring up as well with this is the difficulty levels between retro and modern gaming.
Oh, it's a huge gap.
Like I remember because of course, so when I dating myself here, when I was a kid, the Game Boy just came out,
Mhm.
Like I was like at the perfect age for when the Game Boy came out, and I think back to some of those games, and it's like if you get hit by an enemy, if you fall off the edge of the map, if
You're
you
dead.
you're dead and you start over. There isn't any
Yeah.
like, oh, you get 5 lives. No, 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 no.
And
Like,
there wasn't any, like, you can save your game and progress further later on.
nope.
Like, one of the best stories I have from my childhood, and unfortunately one of the worst too. My uncle Steve spent so long on the original Mario. He left the Super Nintendo. No, was it the original Nintendo? Yeah, it was an original Nintendo. He left it on for like months,
Mhm.
and he had finally gotten to Bowser's Castle, and the power went out. You can't save in that game. That if that game turns off, you are starting
Mhm.
at World 1 base live.
I mean,
That's it.
and that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, like kids today won't understand this, but
Mm-mm.
the part when you beat a level and then it comes up and it goes, "Oh, this is World 1, Level 2, and here's your code." Go.
Yes, the password
The
codes.
password codes, which
Uh,
was like the saves that weren't saves, which just lets you
yeah.
just skip to that area that you were at before.
Castlevania was like one of the most common games I played that had that mechanic in their earlier iterations.
And just the pain that you would feel if you were just pressing through the buttons and not knowing that that was going to come up, and the screen for that comes up, and you press the button, and immediately it's gone, and
Mhm.
you're like, "Oh no, I don't know how to get back here now." And then it was like just that dread of like, I have to beat this level now. If I
You
don't,
have to
I
do
like
the
I.
work. Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, no,
It's a lot like that.
and it's like I think too, because of course I started doing series storytelling sort of games
Mhm.
at the end of my first year. I think it was
Okay.
at the end of 2019. I started doing more of those. I started playing one called Hue, and I was really enjoying it. It was a lot of fun. It was completely new to me, and I hadn't played really story games in like decades. Like I used to play them when I was a
Mhm.
kid. Never could beat them.
Yeah.
And I gotta give props to Mama Husky because she's a fucking badass. She beat Mario 64. She beat Zelda, Ocarina of Time.
Mhm.
She beat Donkey Kong 60. Like she beat all these games that I couldn't beat. I physically could not do it. And I even think to this
That's like me
day,
and my fiance. That's like me and my fiance. He didn't get into gaming until later, like
mhm,
middle school, almost high school. Um, was it middle school, babe? Okay. And it's just like it's funny because like if we go both sit down and go play like a fighter or a platformer, I'm usually the one that's doing better because like I've either had more experience for it or
mhm,
like similarly like I've beaten Ocarina of Time, I've beaten um you know Super Mario 64. Um but like he got the advantage of coming in later, so like he's better with shooters because
mhm.
that's around the time that like they really started getting
Yep.
good.
It's like I still think about it to this day. Like I'm never gonna try and beat like if someone could get me to the exact point I was in both Mario 64 and like Zelda Ocarina of Time. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna beat that final boss. I'm not. It's just not happening. Like I know I won't. Even to this day, won't happen. Like I nope. You know. And it's like I was saying to John recently. We were looking at some of the games because Xbox does sales like weekly.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking at sales, always watching trailers, and if there's a game that I think is worth the money because the game is on sale, I'll tell him. He'll watch the trailer and he'll let me know if it looks like something I've either played before, or if he thinks it's one of the games similar to something I played before, kind of like as a
Yeah.
like a secondary, like hey, yeah, I'm financial manager, even though I know you're going to spend money without me, without like me telling you no. Um,
Well, with video games these days too, like that's a really good thing to have
mhm.
because a lot of the times, what you see isn't necessarily what you get.
Oh yeah, like
Um,
I can say right now, Maneater.
yeah.
That was a game that I was all fucking hyped for, and
Mhm.
nope, don't do it. And I was like, but I want to play as a shark and eat people's. And he's like, don't do it. I was like, but I
Yeah.
want to. That's what I want to do though, John. And and I didn't do it, and now it's free on Game Pass. So I mean,
It works out.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
there's been a few, but I mean, like there was one that I did. I don't remember the name of it because it's freaking like Dutch or um part of that area and it is the
Mhm.
most rage-inducing fucking game I've ever fucking played. I like, it's the let's put it in perspective. It's the only series that I've played that I literally just said, "Fuck this, I'm done." Like I threw my controller
Wow.
down. I was like, "Fuck this, I'm done. I'm not playing this anymore," because it was one of those things where it doesn't tell you where to go. The mechanics of the game are bad. The game,
It almost
like,
sounds like Super Hide.
oh no, it was let me find it real quick. Because the only reason why I'm bringing this one up is because I found out that this company made another game, and I thought about buying it because wa- watching me
You
rage
just
and
wanted to
lose,
hurt yourself.
yeah, watching me rage and lose my shit is kind of a, from what I've been
A
told,
thing.
yeah, a fun thing that people like to do. Um,
People love to see people get mad at video games, like, that's
it's in
just a thing.
en Verlaverstand.
I have never heard of that.
Nobody's fucking heard of this. It's one of those things where you watch the trailer and it's like, wow, this looks like a mindfuck game. You play it and it goes, I'm just gonna shoot myself in the mind now. Like it's like the final level, like I fell off. Like you're so the final level is like a sand area and there's a bunch of like things moving around and you got to jump on them and move over. And eventually, every now and then, you jump on one and it will start shaking and fall down. So of course, I wasn't
Mhm.
ready for any of this shit. So I just fall down and I'm like, I'm on the ground and I'm
Yeah.
not dead. Why
That's
am I
just
not?
like,
I was like, why am I not dead? So I'm looking around trying to figure out what the fuck to do. All the
yeah.
way at the beginning of the level is a little fucking pedestal going up and down.
Oh,
And I'm
no.
sitting there and I was like,
Oh, no.
you have to be fucking kidding me. So I run all the way back to the beginning of the map, jump on top of it because I had to wait for it to come all the way back down. So of course I'm not getting mad or anything. I had to wait for it to come
Mhm.
all the way back down because it's not like a time like when you get close to it, it comes down. No, no, no. It's just doing it off of
It's
time.
on a yeah,
It's,
it's on a timer.
so I'm like just getting pissed off. Like, okay, okay, okay. I get on, I go back up, I go through, I complete part of the level, I fall down, I run all the way back to the beginning of the map. The pedestal isn't there. Why isn't the pedestal there? That's where the fucking pedestal was. So I'm running around the floor of this map trying to find the pedestal. The pedestal moved because I got further in the level,
Oh, no.
and it just kept doing
Oh,
that.
that's awful.
So like
That's awful.
the
That's terrible game design.
like
I'm
the
sorry.
like the final few game it's one of my favorite ones because like I do the titles of my games based off of either shit that I say in the game or
Mhm.
things the characters say. Like for instance with Tomb Raider, little behind the scenes for everyone. When I do my Tomb Raider series, all the titles are quotes that Tomb Raider says, like Lara Croft says in the game.
Yeah.
So each episode, but
Talk about actually a retro game that was, like, super influential for me
yeah,
as a kid.
well, and one
Like
that is just completely like survived as well, where
yeah.
so many
Yeah.
haven't. But yeah, no, so this one though is the titles are all based off of things that I said,
Mhm.
and we get such gems as "This is weird." We're learning. No, why? But what do I do? More error than trial. What? 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 Nope. Oh my god, I wasn't even on the second one. And the finale, done. I'm not playing it anymore.
Fantastic.
It's just like, yeah, like it makes me think of old school games with. It makes me think of a retro game with new graphics, but with a monkey that made the game and doesn't understand what that he is a monkey.
Yeah.
Like it is. It like I get that they were trying to do something unique and different, but just because you have a metal hammer with a wooden head doesn't mean it's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, no. No. Well, that's just like, I was talking with my fiance actually pretty recently about some of the games that have been like either remastered or completely
Hmm.
remade because you're starting to see that a lot. Either companies are struggling to come up with something or they're trying to bring back the old market.
Hmm.
And to share something with the new market, like what we all grew up and loved with and stuff. But one of the games that I was actually really upset about with the remake was actually my very favorite Final Fantasy game.
I was about to say because
Um,
I know that you're a fan of fantasy in that world.
I
I was gonna mention I was gonna say like because I know that they've remastered and redone almost all of them right now.
no, actually a lot of them got left out.
Oh, okay. Well,
Um, but
what the
the
fuck,
one that
Final
was
Fantasy?
The one that, has been my favorite for so many years has been Crystal Chronicles. It's not even one of the numbered games.
Okay.
It was a side spin-off game for the GameCube,
Okay.
and it was cool because it reminded me a lot of, like, I don't know if you ever played the arcade game Gauntlet,
It doesn't sound familiar.
um, but it had kind of a Gauntlet vibe where you went around the map and, um you collected memories to fight the final boss, but you also had to do, like, all these dungeon runs. But what was so cool about this particular Final Fantasy game, it was multiplayer.
Ah, okay.
So, like, you would invite your friends over, and if you had the GameCube to Game Boy Advance adapter, you plug in your Game Boy Advance, and that's your controller, and it gives you a unique map to, like, your particular point of view. So, like, someone in the party can be like, "All right, cool. I know where all the enemies are," and another person's like, "Well, I know where all the treasure is."
Oh shit. All right.
And it was really cool, and you got to pick. It didn't have a lot of character customization. Like, it
Mhm.
had just preset stuff, but you had 4 different races that you got to pick from as well, and you got to name your character, and it would tell you, like, a little bit about, like, your character's backstory in a way.
Okay.
But, like, the only way that you could play it was you had to have everyone come over with their Game Boys and sit down in front of the TV, and couch co-op, basically.
Yeah.
Um, but, I just always loved the idea of it because, whenever my cousin would come over, if I'd go over there, I could just bring my memory card and bring my character with me, and we can sit down and play. Um, so I always thought that was kind of cool. Um, but the remake of it made me really sad for a bunch of different reasons. Unfortunately, it was made for mobile.
Uh,
So,
oh, okay.
it lost a lot of, like, some detail and some graphics were definitely better, but it lost a lot of its charm, especially when you looked at the map. Like, the map looked awful. It looked worse than the GameCube.
Mm,
And that's,
It's
that's pretty old now. It's considered a retro console.
that.
I know, right?
Mm,
I know. I know. That
mm,
makes me feel old too. Um but,
mm.
like, let's just start with just that.
Mhm.
I don't really care about the graphics. Whatever. I grew up with, you know,
Well, also,
1
I mean,
pixel.
like let's like what this is the other one, right? Is like, and it's an interesting one because there's you can look at a game like, for instance, like they were showing Forza 5 today,
Mhm.
and the graphics of that look insanely beautiful. Like
Right.
it looks realistic. Like I know Forza has done a great job making stuff look realistic. They were explaining in the like little like showcase of it. They were explaining how they went to Mexico because the game's set in Mexico. They went to Mexico in certain areas and they just set up like a film station and they just
Yeah.
filmed for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And
And
like
that's one of the best ways to get, like, a realistic
and
feel is to,
I'm
just, like, look at stuff.
Yeah, because well, they were saying that like they did it like that because they know that like I don't know like I heard this and I was like now that I'm rethinking about it I'm like huh, but they were saying like that the Mexican style sky is very unique so they wanted to make sure that they fully captured that
Mhm.
and like
Well,
I'm just kind of sitting there and
that
I'm
makes
like
sense.
it's like I was just sitting there like that's fucking absurd like so like I think about that then you think of a game like Overwatch right because we were talking about
Mhm.
it earlier completely different style
Yeah.
Valorant
It's more of, like, a cell shaded,
exactly.
like, comic book style.
Then you go to Valorant, completely different style. My buddy hates Valorant. That's why I brought it up because I thought it'd be funny. Um, but like like there's especially in today's day and age, like honestly, the companies or the people that most of the time push the graphic thing as like a main selling point.
Yeah.
That game's gonna suck
Yes.
because
Exactly.
it doesn't because to our generation it doesn't fucking matter. Like one of my buddies, Stoop Ghost Coop, he plays primarily it's like 2D pixel games,
Mhm.
and it's just dungeon runners. But
Yeah.
like that's his thing, and he fucking rocks it. And in 2021, it still fucking exists.
Exactly. But,
Like,
like, well, and, side tangent kind of on a similar thing. One of my favorite games was completely remade and it looks amazing, but they didn't ruin it doing it, you know?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so, like, going back to Crystal Chronicles for a
Yep.
sec, um, aside from it being focused to be on mobile, I mean, it was really cool that you could play multiplayer still, but they took out the ability to actually, like, run around in the town with, like, your party.
Oh.
You can only queue up for the dungeons together. So you can't even, like, experience the story together, you have to just do the dungeon runs a bunch.
So they basically they brought the game forward, but they removed certain elements of it.
They removed a lot of elements of it.
Oh, see, that's just.
Um, and it was really sad, and, you know, I understand wanting to remaster some of the music, but, like, the music was already really good back then anyways.
Hmm.
They didn't really need to touch it, and so they brought the singer back who did the theme for it, and I don't like it. Oh, it's so different, like, the timing for all the lyrics is just completely off.
Well, and that could like that's one. I feel like that could be many different things, right? Because like, you give an
Yeah.
artist a second chance at doing something, especially like a musician, they're gonna do it differently.
Mhm.
They're not gonna do it the exact same.
Exactly, and, like, that would be fine, it's just a lot of people who knew about Crystal Chronicles went into it because they loved it, right?
Hmm.
It's one of those niche, Final Fantasy games that, like, unless you've played it, you don't really know it exists. Um, Kinda like Final Fantasy Tactics, it's along those lines, like, not a lot of people know that one exists, but at least that one has more of a market, I guess you could say. Um, but it's just like you go into it, the music had, like, a really nice flow to it, a really nice timing, and don't get me wrong, the new one still sounds nice.
Hmm. It's just it's not. It's.
It's not the feel that it originally had.
Hmm.
It doesn't have, like, this whimsical adventure with your friends feel
Well, so
anymore.
I can relate to that with with some of the most recent DC movie stuff.
Yeah,
Going on a side tangent. When they fucked up the Justice League movie back in 2017 and brought Danny Elfman back on, and Danny Elfman like was like, "I'm completely scrapping all the movie and I'm bringing in all my movie," and it was the same old campy old comic book like ha ha he he sort of music, but then he brought
yeah.
back his Batman theme for Batfleck, and it didn't work. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I I love the fucking old school Batman theme. I'll say right now, you know, but
It's great,
it's
but it doesn't work for the feel that you're going
exactly
for. Yeah,
that's a Batman animated series. That's not Ben Affleck's character breaking someone's arm because they're trying to fucking beat the shit out of him. Like
right, right.
we already have a great theme for that right now, and it was such a weird one for me hearing it in the movie again and being like, no, just no,
It doesn't fit. Like, it's good, but it doesn't fit.
exactly.
And that's exactly how it was for Crystal Chronicles. Like, it was still good and it still sounded great, but it didn't fit anymore.
That's
Um,
also
and that's just, like, the unfortunate situation of what it is.
let me take us on another side tangent.
Yeah.
Uh, really taking us on a side tangent. Nightmare Before Christmas. Is that are you a fan of Nightmare Before Christmas?
I did like it for a
Okay.
really long time, yeah, like,
Did
I never grew out
so
of my goth kid phase.
did you know that there's a version of that that's like on Broadway?
Yes,
Have you heard it and seen it?
I have.
Because it is fucking terrible.
It's
It's so
abysmal.
it's so bad. Like I was just
I would
because like
rather go see Beetlejuice live than go see Nightmare Before
so
Christmas live.
the only reason why I know about it is because I was looking up the songs one day, and I see this
Mhm.
guy like dressed up as Skellington. I'm like, all right, like cool, like some dude's like doing like a cosplay of it or something. Like whatever, let's take a look at this. And then I realized it was
Right.
Broadway, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this guy? Like they've changed the timing of the song. He's changed the
Yeah,
accent. He's adding new words. I'm like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Like,
right? And, like, again, going back to, like, what I was talking about, like, it's the exact same thing, like, it's the change of the timing of the words, it's even, like, the way certain vibratos go, like, it's just completely foreign.
just hit the fucking notes the way they were supposed to be hit. Like they're done. Like, but
Like, I can understand maybe doing, like, the musical arrangement part more Broadway-ish, you know, like, big
mhm.
band style. Fine. That's fine. but yeah, like changing like words and where stuff is placed. I understand it's like creative liberty is cool, but let's be honest, everyone knows Nightmare Before Christmas. They're going in expecting Nightmare Before
Right,
Christmas.
everybody has their like. I feel like this with a lot of those old school kind of Tim Burton, or even like a lot,
Mhm.
even some of the Disney ones, right? Like everyone has
Yeah.
their song, right? For me, it's the
Yeah.
Oogie Boogie song,
Same.
right? So like I like whenever I like that, I'm sitting there like, all right, cool, like let's get it, you know. So I'm expecting that. If it's anything barely off of what I think it's supposed to fucking be,
It's garbage.
done. Um,
Yep.
right.
No, I am the same way. Um, but so going back to games that have been remade,
Mm-hmm.
I briefly mentioned it. So one of my favorite games that was remade, and I will clarify that I say remade rather than remastered.
Okay.
Um, and uh, my definition of that is remastered. They really just only update maybe like graphical textures and maybe a couple of skeleton movements or things like that.
Yeah.
It they
They
don't
kind
do
of
too
they
much.
kind of crisp it up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like putting a sharpening filter
Mm-hmm.
on a photo, right?
Yeah.
Um, but a remake is generally like from the ground up. They redo everything. And Shadow of the Colossus was one of my favorite games in high school. Um, it's still one of my favorite games to this day. Like I still have my original copy of it. I refuse to get rid of it. I
I will
love it.
say that's one of those games that I've seen, I've heard about, seen, never played.
I recommend it. You got to go into it with like a really open mind though, because the control scheme is weird.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but I was working as an assistant manager at GameStop at the time that the pre-order started coming out for Shadow of the Colossus, and like the really cool thing about it is like until pre-orders really started for it,
Mm-hmm.
there was no news about it coming out.
Hmm.
So I literally like looked at my boss and I'm like, you can't talk to me right now. I need to watch a trailer for this. And he's like, what? I'm like, it's Shadow of the Colossus. He's like, oh, you're one of those people. I'm like,
Oh,
yes, it was gorgeous.
You're one of those people.
It was absolutely gorgeous on the PS2. And it's weird to say that because realistically, the PS2 didn't really have pretty graphics, but it was pretty for back then.
Well, that, and like, and
And
that's like it's like I agree with that. Like that, just that statement. It was pretty for back then because
exactly.
like like I was a what was it? Was it? It was like a Game Informer or something like that. And the kids are looking at a video game and they're talking about the graphics, and it's just a picture. It's like one of the picture ads, and they're like
Yeah.
fucking like full mouth open, the hair's flying back, like it looks like they've just seen a girl naked for the first time ever. Like
Right.
like it's like it's seeing that and being like that's what graphics used to be like for us. Like when we saw it,
Hmm.
like when they brought out Mario 64, wow.
We're like, oh my god, you have 3D movement.
I can control the camera, kind of,
What?
not really.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that I thought was really cool, back when the very first iteration of Shadow of the Colossus came out, I remember watching the old G4 TV stuff as a
Oh,
kid.
geez, G4 TV. Yep.
And they did a really cool interview regarding the game, and they put so much thought behind it. It was kind
Mm-hmm.
of you could kind of tell it was like a passion project for them. That's probably what I would label what Shadow of the Colossus was for the developers. Um, they studied a horse for like several months just so that way when they coded how aggro moved in the game, it would be as realistic as possible.
See,
And still,
I appreciate shit like that.
yeah, and like still to this day, it is possibly the most accurate like horse movement in any video game. Um, in my opinion, I should say. Um, but you know, seeing the remake for it side by side,
Mm-hmm.
like I still have those rosy tinted glasses of just how pretty the game was back then,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at it and what they did with it, they didn't skip out on anything. They left all of the map how it should be, left all of the fights and mechanics and how everything moved how it should be.
And that's awesome.
Um, but it's just pretty.
Yeah, they just
It's they really outdid every other like remaster or remake for the time that it came out.
and I
Like
think
you
that's
can go on YouTube and see like the side by side PS2 to PS4 comparison, and
mhm.
it's ridiculous.
Oh, I can almost imagine. Like it's crazy thinking about just like some of the games that are starting to get kind of starting to come back. Like I
Hmm.
said earlier, I said we're getting a new Perfect Dark here at some point.
Yeah,
I know that the first one was a huge success. The second one was a bust. So it's
yeah. I
interesting.
mean, that's usually how it went, right?
Right,
Sequelitis.
exactly. And so I'm assuming I can't wait to see what the new one does. As Billy just said in chat, Halo Infinite. They
Yeah,
released it today. They showed a little bit of the campaign story, like hey, this is what's going to happen, and then the next like minute and a half, 2 minutes was just nothing but gameplay from like the
yeah.
multiplayer mode, and it was immediately just like it was a wait what, but isn't that a you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's just like so we get in Psychonauts 2. I was never a Psychonauts fan, but I know that Psychonauts has a following, you know.
I played it a little bit. I was never a huge fan of it, but I understood the appeal of it.
They didn't give us fucking Banjo 4 and a true Banjo 4, not the bullshit Banjo 3 that we got where there's fucking
Oh my
nuts and
god.
bolts and it was a fucking car
It was
creator.
so bad. It was so bad.
Oh, just give us Banjo Kazooie 4. Like, I
Like,
understand. Like,
I
so,
don't care. I don't care what the little kids say. I want a collectathon.
this is the, like, I don't know if you know this or not. The
Mhm.
main team that did Banjo Kazooie went off and made their own studio and made their
Yeah.
own game called Yooka-Laylee. And I played it, and and it's like it's such a like a heartfelt thing. Is like as soon as you start playing it, you're like,
It's like a spiritual successor.
it's like oh my god, this is Banjo Kazooie,
Yeah.
but instead of playing as a lizard, the only weird thing is though is that now that I'm older and I'm still immature, there's like points where the lizard just like sticks out his tongue, and there was another there's like this little like ghosty guy, and he just has his mouth open, so like there was a good
Mhm.
minute of me just turning the camera so you could just see me just tonguing the shit out of this dude's mouth, and just me giggling the whole time, and I
Okay,
was,
but you know what? Even as kids, we would have done that too. Like,
exactly like
let's be real.
but no, so like it's interesting seeing like a lot of the older games starting to either get sequels or coming back. Like I'm still waiting for Conker's Bad Fur Day to come back out because
I know, me
that's just
too.
gonna get a huge a huge boost. We can been getting Mario for fucking ever. We getting Pokemon for fucking ever. Digimon's starting
Mhm.
to make a comeback now. We're slowly starting to see a lot of these old properties kind of start coming back now.
Yeah.
Now that gaming is viewed as kind of just like a universal thing, a lot of these companies I feel like are looking at these old titles that were huge at one point and just starting to bring them back.
Well,
Um,
it's just like look at how well we'll use Resident Evil for example, because
yeah.
Village just came out, right?
Mm.
And when six came out, six was a huge flop. Like I don't know a single person who actually genuinely enjoys six,
I can't
especially if
even.
they've played through the series.
I can't even tell. I mean, like, of course, I don't really know the Resident Evil games, but like,
That's one of my favorites.
I, I know of Biohazard because that was the one that at one point I was worried that people were going to try to make me play on stream.
Mhm.
Because was it 2 Halloweens ago or one Halloween ago? One of the two. I did a if you pay me money, I'll play a horror game,
Yeah.
and I was waiting because I'm not good with horror games. I fucking hate horror games. I hate horror. I hate horror games. I did it because I knew it would be something fun for the community. Um,
Yeah.
I was waiting for someone to do Outlast. So thank God no one did Outlast. And I was waiting for someone to do Biohazard. So I don't even know what six was because Biohazard was like the last one that I know of.
So all of the games are fun fact, all of the games are actually called Biohazard.
Okay, fine, fair enough.
Um it's what they're called across the pond, if you will.
Oh, okay.
So you knowing them as Biohazard, it makes sense. A lot of people don't even realize like the titles are kind of interchangeable, right? Like if you actually look at a lot of like the old cover art and stuff like that for the older games, you'll
Hmm.
see that they still say Biohazard on them, even though they say Resident Evil for like the
Mm,
English copies.
interesting.
Um, Six was supposed to be the end of the series. Uh, Spoilers, I guess. The games have been out forever, so deal with it, I guess. Uh, you had Wesker, who is like the main antagonist of the entire series, get killed off in the 5th game.
Okay.
So he was the reason everything happened, at least to our understanding at the time. And what do? Is they try to make another game after that, capitalizing on everyone's love for the series still, but you don't have the reason everyone loved the villains in it. He
Oh,
was
okay.
he was he was the thing that connected everything, and then they try to toss in like he had a kid somewhere along the line, and like you're dealing with his kid now.
Just starting to throw in shit just to try and make it work.
Right, right. And I mean, like, if it had been on its own, I probably would have liked it.
Hmm.
But it had so many really good games preceding it. Everyone talks about 4. Everyone likes 4. I actually don't like 4. Unpopular opinion. But that's just because I cannot stand Ashley at all. I thought Krauser was awesome for a villain, but anyways. But everyone for the series, you have 4, you have 2, you have 3. They were such influential games that were just really good. Even the original 1 and 0 were freaking fantastic. But 6 really was just trying to capitalize on the hype and not really do much else.
Okay.
So when 7 then got released, Capcom originally stated like it's supposed to be kind of like a reboot of the series. But now, as we've learned with 8, I won't put too many spoilers. It explains some of the origins behind the entire series. I won't say where
Hmm.
because it's still relatively new, but they weren't a remake. It's kind of more like an origin side story. Finally,
Yeah, it's almost kind of like people were playing like you play the games, you're going through, you get to 6, and then immediately it's just a guy comes out of nowhere and just like, hey, over here, over here, over here, don't look over there, over here, over here, over here,
mm-hmm.
don't fucking look over there, look to me,
Don't look at
don't fucking look at that one, like play it, but don't look at it, then come to me,
yeah,
like
that's pretty much like how it kind of felt. But I was really happy when they went back to 7 and 8
I,
because the old story writing seemed like it came back.
mhm. I like I
I
said,
I didn't really like 7,
I haven't
but
played any of them. I've just seen other people play them.
mhm.
But like I enjoyed the story of 7 and 8. I thought the story for seven and
Yeah.
eight was
No,
really well done.
the story of 7 was really good, and I did like the story for 7. The thing that I didn't like about 7 is it felt more like Outlast than it did Resident Evil.
I
Um,
think I think it was that, in my opinion, just seeing the games go along, it almost felt like they were trying to do. I'm going to say it like this, and it's probably going to be the wrong way of wording it. Felt like they were trying to do something new in the series that wasn't you hadn't seen up until that point, sort of thing. So,
so fun random fact.
oh,
Again, Resident Evil used to have a first-person game series.
mm,
It was a side series that really did not do well. Let's just put it that way. Let's just talk about some of the coding, right?
mm,
Uh, if you don't look at the enemies, they can't hurt you.
love that. Okay.
So, it was kind of, like the old Doom movement.
Um,
It's like that first person, like really kind of janky
I
movement.
I know because of my buddy. My buddy's a huge Doom
Okay.
fan. I am not.
You at least understand what I mean when I say
Yeah.
like the movement for it or like the forced camera perspective.
Yes.
Well, it's that, but Resident Evil, and again, if you don't look at the enemies, they can't hurt you.
I like that. That's a fun. If you don't
Uh,
look at them, they can't hurt you. We need that
it's
in
it's
all
like
games across the board.
right. It's basically the epitome of you can't see me if I can't see you.
Yeah, I fucking love that. That's actually really fucking funny. You can't
Right.
see me. The game starts, you just shoot your eyes out, and you're just slowly walking around, just touching everything. Oh,
Oh my god. If you ever have the time, look up the speed run for them. I forget what the title of it is, but it's it's bad. We'll just leave it there. It's bad.
so,
um, it
oh
was
god.
kind of
This
like
might look
Capcom
like a
trying it
normal job.
again, more or less.
Um,
And they saw the success of Outlast and were just like, we can do this.
so the final one that I was going to bring up for this
Yeah.
because I do believe that I'm gonna say this, and I already know if Billy's still here, Billy's gonna yell at me. But I find it hard to. I find this argument hard to fight against.
Hmm.
I think that Fortnite and the BR era has changed gaming forever
Honestly, you're probably right.
because it was one of those things where it's a constant source of basically fresh new things weekly, monthly, yearly. Like it's hard to keep up with that when you're a story game. Like Assassin's Creed
Hmm.
Valhalla is trying to do that, which I was so fucking excited when that came out, when that was starting to come out.
Valhalla was great.
I did reactions to it. I was fucking pumped. I bought like the $120 version of the game, and I fucking hate that game now because it's just it's
It didn't live up to your expectation.
well, it was one of those things where I get very easily sidetracked. So as
Hmm.
soon as we made it to England, I just explored England. I didn't do the story.
Okay, but I completely understand that feel
And like
because I was really excited about Breath of the Wild and I hate it.
yeah, well like so and it's funny because like I've been playing through the new Tomb Raider games. I just
Hmm.
finished the second one, and I actually said it recently that I really enjoy them because they are open world. You can go all over the world, but it does a
Yeah.
great job of keeping you on track with the story and almost forcing you to go down the storyline, which I
Well,
really like.
you know, open world games really need something like that, right? So
And
like you have open world games like Ghost of Tsushima, for example. Like you
mhm.
can go explore whatever, but it still keeps you on track because you have to do certain missions like to get anywhere else.
And Valhalla just didn't do that. Valhalla was just like, oh, here, you're in England, just go do whatever now. The only thing that it did
Mhm.
was, at one point, and it did piss me off because I was there was one of the challenges or one of the new DLC things came out, and it's like, oh, you haven't done the first arc of the game. Well, then you can't do the free DLC that's free for everyone, and it's free and it's DLC, but you can't do it because you haven't gone further enough in the game. And
Yeah.
I
It it
lost my
it
shit
story
on
locked
stream
it.
with that. I was like, you have to be fucking kidding me, you know?
Mhm.
So like, but like everything is just the same old fucking thing. So like watching them at E3 be like, this is our new content, and me being like, haha, no one fucking cares. Um,
Mhm. Well, and like going back to what you said, like battle royales really have changed the
well,
scene
and that's what I was about to
because
say. Is like Fortnite just dropped a whole brand new thing, and
mhm.
I went on to look because I was like, my buddy John also, I was bored, and he said, isn't Rick and Morty in Fortnite? And like I was like, well, I guess we're going down this rabbit hole. So I loaded it up, and like it's like yes, like I have Tomb Raider unlocked on the game, like Superman's on the game, Rick and Morty's on the game, a whole brand new season, brand new stuff. Every 3 months is a brand new season, all new stuff,
Mhm.
weekly challenges, fucking new skins, new guns, new things. You see brand new trick shots every day, or someone found some new fucking cool thing to do, and it's just like you see all that, and then it's like you know when was the last time that you heard anyone's post anything about Cyberpunk?
Well, right. And honestly, it kind of goes back to as well with multiplayer games, you really have to keep bringing people in
Hmm.
some way, shape, or form because multiplayer games are the epitome of if something goes stale at any point, that's it. You're done.
Oh yeah, I mean, like there's
I mean, you don't hear people talk about Splatoon anymore. You don't hear people talk about um just about any multiplayer game at this point unless it's either like CS:GO, Rainbow Six, or a battle royale.
yeah. I mean, and it's funny because of course, like with Halo Infinite coming out, everyone was like, "Is Halo Infinite gonna have a BR?" And it's
Hmm.
one of those things. It's like if Halo had a BR, that would probably be the best BR on
It
planet, hands down, because
and quite frankly, it would dominate the market.
it would because it's the game of Halo. It's just like COD. It has that fucking name. But the difference is though is that they could literally look at every single battle royale game that's come out recently and being like, okay, this is the pros, this is the cons, so we can't do the
Hmm.
cons on that. This is the pros, this is the cons, we can't do this on that. Maggie K22, thank you for the follow, appreciate it. Love you. And they could do that for every single one and just basically make a god BR, and it's Halo, so
Right,
no one's gonna
right.
argue against it anyway. But what
Hmm.
do they do? They come out tonight, today, and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the campaign mode is coming out at this point." and we're going to be releasing the multiplayer mode for free at this point. Here's a look at it, and you look at it, and it's like the customization. It looks unreal. It's just like the old games, but
Well,
it's like brand. It's
exactly. And the old games, I was never really a fan of Halo.
I it's
But I cannot fault like the multiplayer customization. Like it was really
mhm.
cool. You could pick your color, you could pick your armor, you could pick whether you were um a Spartan or a bib. What was the other one? All right, he's not listening.
Fair enough.
um um you could pick one of the Covenant.
Hmm.
Um and, like that was always really cool, you know?
And it's just like
Um
it's like so like seeing that like it's interesting, right? Because like they just straight up ignored it, even though like people and everyone is like, I see like Courage JD, Tim the Tap Man, the big
mhm.
name streamers. They're like, hey, Halo better drop that BR today, and it's like Halo just basically just went, nah, we good, you know, and
Well,
it's
and you know what? You know what though? They don't even really need it
well,
because
it's gonna be great because when the holiday season rolls around and that game comes out,
right.
it's
If
over.
Microsoft is listening, make sure that you do that because you will literally shut down everyone else.
Like it's fucking like it's over just with the multiplayer part of it. I'm honestly gonna say it's
Mhm.
over, and it's one of those things where like if like because of course I have Twitch up on my fucking second screen here. If I just go browse real quick, the main multiplayer, not BR multiplayers, right? So
Yeah.
Apex is at 200K. That's because of the championship going on right now.
Yep.
Warzone is the BR, so we're not even going to talk about that one. Valorant and CS:GO are right next to each other. I'm looking for
Mhm.
just straight up multiplayer shooter game. Nope, 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 nope. There it is. Warfare. So I gotta go all the way down to Warfare. It's just barely beating out Hearthstone right now.
Well, and realistically, like the reason that all of these battle royales do so well, even if they don't release content themselves, every match is going to be different.
Exactly. The creators, the people, the content creators are gonna release the content for it.
Exactly. And that's all that they have to do. They just have to sit back and let people play it.
And that's the reason why I think the gaming industry and everything has changed so much is because of that aspect. Like
Mhm.
like I can sit down and I can play like I'll say like Sea of Solitude. That's one of the games I'm going to be playing here within the next week or so, right?
Mhm.
That's not going to get huge views or huge content or anything because it's a story game, and unless it looks interesting to you or unless I'm a big streamer and I have that community that's going to watch anything and everything I do, like it's going to be a very niche thing.
Well, right, like we can even bring into this discussion like how certain female streamers do better than others, and it's always the ones who play like the battle royales and the
Hmm.
shooters that do well because they're capitalizing on the market that's just, well, we want that instant gratification thing as in, oh,
Exactly.
hey, look, pretty face or boobs,
Mhm. Oh, and how about this for a great transition there? The instant gratification psychology. Um,
right?
like basically making it so this you get the same feeling winning a game or winning a fight or like winning anything like shooting like basically winning a one-on-one gunfight in a BR is basically the same in your brain as crack. Like
Yep.
no
No,
wonder sucking
actually, no, like
like
that is a perfect transition to psychology because like instant gratification is kind of the reason you see gaming the way it is these days.
hmm
You know, no, almost no video game developer these days, indie or not, like actually completes a video game. They just want to
hmm
get it out to the masses, and then it's DLC, 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 DLC.
yeah,
And quite frankly, I would rather have a 10-hour game that's complete than a 30-hour run around and do everything really pretty game that's not complete and I have to wait for getting like the entire story of something.
exactly. I 100% agree. I mean, it's a weird like it's a weird mindset thing, right? Because it's like,
Hmm.
okay, either you can get the game out right this second, or give us a little bit more time when we get the full game out. You're gonna get people to say both answers.
Well, right. Honestly, I'm solidly in the I'd rather wait.
Hmm.
I'd rather see people like, and I understand that it's financial reasons,
So
but
it
it's
always comes down
I
to
would
money.
I would rather wait X amount of years, whatever, and see a passion project that has so much thought and effort and time put into it that makes it something that can reach people
Mhm.
than something that's just all right, it's out.
Yeah. Um, right. So psychology though. I know
Yeah.
before stream started, you said that you were a psych major.
Yeah, I originally started as a psych major right out of high school.
So,
And
so for everyone out there that doesn't know, psychology is the scientific study of the human mind and its functions, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. I know that off
mhm.
the top of my head. I didn't use Google.
um psychology is kind of a really fascinating subject. There it's one of those sciences that it's probably never gonna be finished, to be quite honest. I mean, what science really is, but it's still kind of so new. And you get a lot of people who unfortunately are very much like deniers of the science because it was either the mindset of, well, that didn't exist back in my day,
Mhm.
or we're still learning,
You damn you kids and your new fancy words for stuff.
right? No, even if it's just for like a hobby, I always like encourage people to read sit down and read like something psychological every now and then. It's it helps it helps you think. As weird as it sounds, like it opens up your perspective to a lot of different things. Um, it allows you to maybe understand someone that you didn't necessarily before. Um, it's just a fascinating topic. And there's so much behind it. How many of us watch like true crime? Wow, I am speaking backwards. True crime. Uh, but like how many of us watch true crime shows? Like how
Mm.
many of us watched CSI
I
or
would say this. My English grandmother, who's no longer with us, she used to watch those shows, and it was amazing seeing how many times she picked the killer at the very like
mm-hmm.
immediately. It was amazing. Like 100% think that she like either had a hand in writing these shows or she used to be a serial killer herself, so she knew. Like it's one of the two because like it was like you would just be
It was
watching.
uncanny.
When that's the thing is like we'd be watching, going along, and then out of nowhere she'd be like, "Killer,"
Yeah,
and I'm sitting there, and
I was the
it's like,
same
Grandma, what the
way.
fuck are you talking about? And then like 50 minutes later, it's like, yeah, I did it, I killed him, and it's like, Grandma, what the fuck? How do you know this shit? Like, you know, I just, now psychology is an interesting one because like I've always been, um, like a couple of things that I've always said differently is that I do like knowledge as much as it seems like I don't. I like knowing things, right? But
hmm
also psychology is an interesting one because it's literally like most of the time it's like seeing how like it's a person thing. Like how does this affect people? Like how does this like a certain thing, how does it mess with you and like stuff like that to me is very interesting because
Yeah.
especially with um like for instance like streaming, you can see the people that are genuine, nice, open, and you can see them have very small communities, and then you can see the ones that are super fucking toxic and have huge communities.
Yeah.
And it's like just different things like that, or like even talking with people. Like for
hmm
instance, there's one of the girls that I work with, and she was homeschooled, and you can tell that she was homeschooled just by the way that she acts and like little
Yeah.
things that she does. And it's very interesting seeing just kind of like I love seeing that shit and just kind of like almost like being like, okay, I understand why that is happening,
hmm
to an extent.
Well, so uh, going to like something that you mentioned, how you can have someone who's just very down to earth, very open,
Hmm.
who has just a very small community versus someone who is very toxic. The human mind likes to digest discourse. It makes them feel like their life isn't necessarily as chaotic in the moment.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's like
and
one of the ones I've always said about, and it's when it involves the news. Whenever it's like everybody and everyone that's on Facebook has those people that put up these things, and it's like, well, this is a positive thing that happened in the world today. Why isn't anyone talking about this? Because good doesn't sell, negative sell.
good does not sell. Um, and realistically, it's just. It's about what sells, and it's about what people just really want to hear about. They want to hear about something that has happened that's worse than maybe what they're
Hmm.
going through, or you know thinking about at the time. Um, and actually, a really good example of that is, think about every bully that's ever been in school, right?
Hmm.
They're bullies because they want to make themselves feel better than whatever their environment is at home. And they may not have like a toxic family per se, but they may have learned toxic behavior from one of their parents or siblings or someone around them.
Yes.
Um,
Like
and like that's just like one really good example of how that just manifests. Um,
one of the
is
ones
there anything?
one of the ones I was thinking of with that is like oh god, now I just fucking lost it again. God, my brain is so broken. God damn it,
It's
football.
okay.
um
Well, okay. Well, while
uh
you think of that, is there anything like that you've wanted to maybe like ask about regarding psychology, like a certain aspect of it that maybe you've never really heard someone talk about before, or
um I just like I said, I just find it like, to me it's the aspect of, like kind of like breaking down the way people are the way they are,
hmm
you know what I mean? Because like
yeah,
I find it very interesting the people who like I'll give just a straight up, example. The people that say they're against, like, they're against toxicity, or they're against people being dickheads or douchebags, but yet they're the first ones who are assholes and douchebags to their friends. But then immediately it's like, oh no, ha ha ha, no, don't,
it's
it's like,
just
I'm
a
just,
joke.
it's
Ha ha ha.
yeah, you can't take me seriously, and it's like
No,
that
you
sort of
absolutely can. That's toxic.
that's to me. I just find like stuff like that so interesting, especially seeing it and then seeing the people that are just so kind of like imbued in, like, oh yeah, no, that's just them being them.
hmm
You're like, to me, that's just being just as bad as that person, you know.
Well, so something that I've always personally, I guess, been an advocate for,
Hmm.
I guess you could call it. Everyone has a reason that they've turned out the way that they have, but that does not make it an excuse.
Yes.
That is not a crutch to hide behind. It's something to understand and learn to work with. You know, I don't really usually talk about like my own personal mental issues, but um, I've struggled with depression for a really long time. And there are times where, it puts me in a bad mood. I'm maybe not necessarily like the nicest or best person out there.
Hmm. I
But I don't let it be an excuse for my actions.
Yeah, you don't freak out on
It's
someone and then immediately you're like, oh, so
well, it's not my fault. It's my depression.
yeah, that's depression me. Don't worry about it. Like,
That's not okay.
that's
That's not
still
okay.
that's still you. Like, yeah. I completely get that. Like, it's like with the depression thing. Like, of course, we've talked about it on the podcast on stream before. Like, I've
Mhm.
never been diagnosed, but I mean, like, I did health science in college. I kind of, I know bits and pieces of stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's definitely a fucking, I have a little bit of something. I know exactly
Right.
where it's made from. I know the source of it, why it happened, where it came from, why it does
Mhm.
happen, you know, and it's one of those things where, like, yeah, it's just, there's some days that are, are better than others.
Some worse. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like for myself, I was diagnosed. I was actually diagnosed when I was 10.
Hmm.
Um, so kind of really early on, probably earlier than kids really should be because they're still adjusting, hormones are changing, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But no, for me it was still accurate. um, but something that I always talk to people about, like if they mention that they have depression or if they think they have depression, like the first and I think the most important thing regarding it is you need to still hold yourself accountable.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean beat yourself up over it. It just means, okay, if you're in a bad mood, you need to put yourself in a healthy space to get yourself out of said mood. Um, and a really common and unfortunate common misconception for depression is that, oh, someone must have caused it, or that it's just being sad all the time. And I can tell you 9 out of 10 people who have depression wish that they could feel sad.
Yeah,
It's it's apathy. And
there
when when that apathy breaks, it's usually not sadness, it's anger.
kind of is almost varying a little bit. I feel
Mhm.
like, and this is one of the ones I talked about in the what I was telling about earlier with the mental health podcast there that I did with
Yeah.
Danae. It's still a very taboo, very shush, thing.
It is.
Everyone wants you to be open. Everyone wants you to, tell these things and say how you're feeling, and this and that. But
But they don't wanna see the darkness.
no one actually wants you to. It's
Yeah.
more of it's so much these days of people saying that, and then it is if you say it once, that's as like that's it. You don't talk about this again,
Well, and,
and
you
that's
know,
because
it kinda goes along with that, like, fake activism or fake, awareness, right? It's, "Okay, we're doing this in solidarity of bringing these things to light, but don't talk about it. We're
hmm
still not okay with it."
yeah, because like I know for like I've had some experiences where it's like I'll talk about something that's going on, right?
Mhm.
And then I'm immediately met like it'll be like, okay, there's the support, there's the I'm here for you, the typical things that you will always hear, like I
Right.
understand, I'm here for you, da 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 da, all these different things. But then if you try to bring it up again, then it's like, oh, like all right, what's wrong
You
this
feel like
time? And
yeah,
immediately
you
at
feel
that
like
point,
it's
it's
like a
just
some shit different day or an inconvenience or whatever.
and like I've talked to different people before about stuff like that where it's like like even though I know for a fact that there's at least two or three people that I have
Mhm.
that if something's up I could straight up tell them and they will listen.
Yeah.
But because of previous experiences, because of past history,
You don't wanna open up.
I've trained myself to not because I don't want to be annoying, I don't want to be a nuisance. It doesn't matter how
Mhm.
many times you tell me, you can tell me. I'm not going to because I don't want to be a nuisance. And
Yeah.
it's like it's that, and it's this like for me personally, this is just a personal one. It's the same thing with like gaming.
Mhm.
I I want to play with different people. I want to play all these games with different people. I want to do all these things with different people. I
But I don't
don't
wanna ask.
I don't like asking
Yeah.
because I feel like a nuisance asking. I feel like I'm bothering them. I feel like I'm a nuisance. I feel like I'm begging. I just it's there's something and it's something that's happened, like you said, something that's happened in my past that has made me the way I am right now.
You know, to be honest though, I had a very similar experience. I used to have a lot of people who would like get mad if I really asked about anything.
hmm
And I was always reminded, hey, don't impose upon other people. So I just stopped asking for help or stopped asking to really do things with other people. Um, because I didn't want to impose. I didn't like you said, you don't want to be a burden. You don't want to
hmm
be like, oh, I'm bugging people or XYZ, you know?
Exactly. Well, like
um,
one of the ones, and this is one that happened recently. I just want to hit on real quick, just because it's fresh
yeah,
on my mind.
yeah,
Um, in chat, talking with someone, they're getting ready to play a game. I have the game. I've played with them before. I want to play with them, but I
yeah,
don't feel. It's hard for me to say like, hey, I can play. Um, and having them in like they've talked to me in chat, we've already talked, and having them ask someone else that is in chat to play with them
yeah.
but not me, like that immediately, like just like that's one of those ones where it's like, see, I there's no I shouldn't ask because I'm a nuisance. If I can't be asked right
Like I
now,
was
I'm here.
exactly.
I have this. We've played together. We've done these things, but yet you're not going to ask me while I'm here, but you're going to ask someone else. Like that means I'm a nuisance. I'm annoying. I shouldn't be here. And like
Yeah,
immediately all of that just
it happens. Yeah, no, there are a lot of times where in the past like a friend has asked to go do something and like they'll ask someone else, but they know that I've always been interested in it.
hmm
And it's just like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go do this by myself or something like that. It's fine.
And it's one of those things. Like I'm not saying that like that person is an asshole or anything like that for doing
No,
it.
no.
Like it's the way that I've
It's the mindset. It's what sinks in because of your past experiences and
exactly
your personal. I guess they call it mental divergence instead of mental disorder or mental disease, mental illness,
interesting.
whatever you want to call it. Because it's quote unquote not quite normal, so it's divergent. Um, I guess it's just the more, what do you call it, politically correct way of saying things.
Yeah, let's stick to the other way
Um,
then.
I just find mental disorder
It's
about the same. It's the same meaning. It's the tone that you use the words in, you
hmm
know.
it's yeah. That's another topic for another day.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's just like psychology is like I said, it's very like I find it very interesting because it all refers back to something, and it feels like especially today's day and age, and like you were saying with the fake how people are fake basically these days. It always was like
Mhm.
it always rolls back to like something that's happened in their past that is like that's now either a crutch or an excuse or this
Right.
or that. Like, and I've said it, and of course I always fucking last fucking like 2 months now always refers back to fucking me working out or me getting healthier again. Um,
Mhm.
me changing my mindset on that. Like, it's like it's no longer a diet plan, it's a health plan because the main word of diet is die, the main word of health is heal. I've already killed my fucking body. I'm trying to heal it now. And just that
Yeah.
little mindset switch in my head, which, has changed that. Because it's like, for instance, I went to the store today, went bought
Mhm.
groceries, and they had honeycomb bites, which is like a brand new thing, I guess, which is just, it's a bag with just giant ass fucking honeycombs in it.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So look to the back. A serving is 19 of them, and it's only 110 calories. And the reason why I
That's
bring
awesome.
and the reason why I bring that up is because I am in a calorie deficit. That's what the thing that I'm doing right now. So I don't give a fuck
Mhm.
what the food is as long as I hit my number.
Yeah.
Now that's the thing. Like I know it's not great for my body. However, I'm just trying to lose fucking weight right now. This is the way you do it. Calorie deficit. And it goes
Mhm.
back to some of the other things that I've said before where it's like my reasons why I have a bunch of reasons why community, have friends, family, Dana, dark side, um there's a bunch of different things, and then at the
Well,
very
right.
end of
And
that it's for myself because it's like no shit this is for myself, right? Like like I know
yeah,
I shouldn't be eating fucking McDonald's 5 times a week,
no one should. We
right?
all know that.
We all know that. But so like why do I need to write that down? Why does that need to be something that is like a thing in my mind where it's like, oh well, I'm doing this for myself. It's like no shit, I'm doing this for myself. Like it's kind of an obvious at this point, right?
Right.
Like
Well, and kind of along the topic that you're mentioning too, like you're just trying to be healthier. I know this is probably kind of a controversial topic, but um,
that controversy.
there's there's this whole movement about like beauty at every size, the body positivity movement.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm half on board with it and half not because I think it's important to be happy with who you are no matter what size you're at.
Yes.
But you should be healthy.
Yes.
Healthy doesn't mean you need to be thin,
Exactly. So
but you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. If your body's condition, whatever condition it's in, if your body's condition is causing you to have other conditions going on, something needs to change.
mhm. So like
It
here's
doesn't mean that you'll ever be thin. It doesn't mean that you'll ever not have fat on your body. It means you just need to be healthy.
exactly. So like here's one for you, and it's a personal one. So probably don't know this because I don't know if we had been friends at this point. At the beginning of March, I went to the ER. I
Okay.
was having stabbing pains in my back and
Mhm.
in my front. Found out I had a mild gallbladder spasm.
Yep.
I
Okay.
basically pushed my gallbladder too hard. They said, and I like, so I was like, all right, cool. My gallbladder failed. It's just like me. Um, so I was like, so immediately at that point, so the funny thing is that I was going to start getting back in shape. I'd already started like
Mhm.
coming up with a plan and everything, and then I said, you know what, I'm going to have one last meal, and that's what fucking did me in. Um, So of course, because of that, though, it kind of opened my eyes a little bit more to what I need to do.
Yeah.
Um, Now I forgot where the fuck I was going with this. God damn it, my brain is fucking broken today.
It's
Um,
okay. Well, okay, so following the same line though, diabetes
oh,
runs in my family.
there we go.
Um, so it's part of the reason that like I've been trying to just be healthier in
Hmm.
general because like I'm open about what weight I am. I
Yeah.
don't really care. I'm currently 207. I used to be like 223.
Hmm.
And I'm 5'4", so that's kind of really heavy for my height. Um and like even at just like 207, which really isn't as super heavy as you'd think, I'm considered pre-diabetic.
Yep.
It sometimes doesn't take much. It depends on like your genetics, your environment, like everything around you. But it's it, I want to be healthy. I want to get rid of the health issues that I have, and part of that involves losing weight.
So now I remember.
Um,
Now I remember where I was going. Where I was going, and I agree. Um, it's good. As well. The thing is that I find that it's good that you have acknowledged that, though,
mhm.
because there's some people that would do like, oh, I want to lose like a couple pounds, and then they just like they don't acknowledge anything else. That's it. That's the main statement. Just boom, there it is.
Yeah, no.
Acknowledging that it's like this is something that I don't want to do because it is a family risk. That's
Mhm.
it gives it a little bit more power to it. So
Yeah.
so
Well, and the mindset behind it too is
mm,
really important because it's just like, I'm 29 and pre-diabetic. I shouldn't be there right
yeah.
now. You
So
know.
high blood pressure runs in my family. So after I
Mhm.
went to the ER, I went to go get a checkup. When I got a checkup, brand new doctor. Apparently, my doctor either died or just doesn't exist anymore
May have
because
switched practices too.
no, like they were like, yeah, they're like, we don't know where she is.
Oh, oh, okay.
Yeah, they just like my doctor just vanished. So like I got a brand new doctor. So like this is the first time he's ever seen me. And of course, like if you're a doctor and you're seeing me for the first time, you're probably gonna get a little bit shocked because I'm a very big into fucking individual. Um, so we're going over stuff. He's checking my blood pressure. My blood pressure's high. I told him, look, like, dude, don't worry about it. My blood pressure's always high. Don't need to worry about it. And he's like, well, considering you just went to the ER and everything, I want to make sure. So we're gonna put you on
That's
medicine.
good.
And I was like, ha, 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 fuck you. I'm not taking it. And he's like, okay, how about I give you 2 months? Give you 2 months. You
Mhm.
come back. We'll take your blood to do a bunch of different tests for like cholesterol and a bunch of other stuff. And
CBC. Yep.
yeah, and then we'll just see how you're doing the following week, and we'll go from there. So I'm gonna give you 2 months. I said bet. I took that as a challenge. So I
Mhm.
show back up 2 months later, lost 30 fucking pounds at this point. I'm feeling a lot better. I started doing workouts. I started weightlifting, cardio, and yoga, interspersed, throughout the week, 6 times, 6 to 7 times, 6 out of 7 times,
Mhm.
6 days a week. There we go.
Yeah.
Calorie deficit stuff. So go in, and he walks in. The first thing he says is, "Holy hell, you've lost a lot of weight."
Yeah.
And I
Well,
was like, yeah. And then he's like, did you mean to? And I'm like, yeah, you told me to.
you told me
Like,
I've only got so much time,
yeah.
otherwise I'm put on meds. Well,
So he gets the forms for for the blood tests, and he's looking
yeah.
over them, and I can tell just by looking at his face that he's just like completely in awe and shocked. And so how'd I do? Just kind of, it's still bullshit, that I am sometimes, and I'm like,
Like that cheeky
yeah,
grin.
exactly. How'd I do?
Mhm.
And he's like, honestly, he's like, I'm not gonna lie to you, Colin, I don't believe this. And I'm like, okay. I was like, and immediately in my head, I'm like, fuck. And
Mhm.
he's like, so this is the normal number range that you're supposed to be at, and everything that it listed, I was either in the normal number range or below the number range, which is good.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've never seen someone that's your size this healthy inside. He's
Well,
like,
so
and
that's a really funny thing. So like my fiance is the same way.
mhm,
We're both overweight, but he is remarkably healthy despite that. Because he works out regularly. He tries to eat well. Um, and it's funny because there are a bunch of people who think like, someone who's overweight, oh, they can't possibly be healthy.
exactly right. And like
Mhm.
that was the thing I was gonna bring up, is that the fact that it's like of course I'm also not shy about sharing. I'm 6'4", 336. I think I was this morning,
Mhm.
336. I'm a big dude. But like when the doctor's telling me like, look, you're healthy for a guy that's half your size, let alone your size. I'm sitting there
Mhm.
like, you better fucking believe I am. And then of course, then he did a bunch of the different tests to see, kind of like how my muscles are and how my joints are and everything. And he's like
Yeah.
pushing them, and he's like, why is this going so far? And I'm like, I do yoga now, and he's like, I can tell, like.
Well, part of his disbelief too is like doctors do see a lot of patients who are like, "Yeah, I want to change," and then they don't do anything about it.
Mhm. Yeah, like I like, and I told him afterwards. I was a health science major in college. Like I got the shit on lock. Like I know what to do. I just haven't done it. Like that sort
Yeah,
of
it's
thing.
getting the motivation. And your really motivating part, like you said, you had only just started to think about doing it. You said, you're doing this one last hurrah, and you ended up in the ER, and
Hmm.
that's basically the kick to your ass that you needed.
Yeah, that was kind of the I'm a fucking idiot. I should have done this a week earlier thing.
Mhm.
But
Well, it's like so similar experience, very different experience at the same time. Like the whole kick to the ass that like I needed. Um, and I super apologize if this is TMI for everyone, but sorry, this stuff happens. I had my period for like almost 3 years straight, like every day, nonstop. I ended up really, really anemic. Like I should have had a blood transfusion, but I didn't.
god damn.
Um, and it wasn't until I couldn't work because of how anemic I was that I finally was just like, I need to do something about this. And I mean, part of part of the reason was that, working, I made too much to really get financial assistance for medicine, but I didn't make
Hmm.
enough to really like have my own health insurance. So
Hmm.
like
That
part of it's that.
that nice
I
little
won't.
double edged sword.
Yeah.
I make too much for this, but not enough for that one.
But the other main part of it was just I hadn't really maybe like tracked my menstrual cycle as well as I probably should have, um which probably could have avoided like the whole issue.
Hmm.
So I ended up, I ended up doctor shopping a lot because, quite frankly, like I wasn't getting good answers. I would get people who were just like, "Well, it's just because 'cause you're overweight." And then they wouldn't like look into
Hmm.
why I was overweight, because when it all started, like I was around 160, 170. I was actually a fairly healthy weight. Um and I went all the way up to 220. And I'm just like, "Okay, something's wrong. Something's definitely wrong. If I am gaining weight that fast, something is wrong." You know? Um So after seeing like 5 different OBs, because again, some would hear my situation and like they would try to figure stuff out, but like they just couldn't, or they would just brush me off, being like, "Well, it's because you're overweight."
Hmm.
I ended up finding out I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Okay.
Which, as weird as it sounds, like totally should have probably a lot more awareness about that stuff. Just saying. Uh, I guess like like about 50% of women don't even realize that they have it.
Oh damn.
It's it's pretty up there.
That's.
Um, if your period's like really really heavy or really irregular, you might have it. If you have a hard time losing weight, if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic and you're barely overweight, you probably have it. If you have depression, you might have it,
Sh-
cuz it affects it affects so much, because it changes how your hormones work. And if if your chemicals aren't balanced, something else is also going to eventually be unbalanced. And when it comes to like your gender's hormones, that affects a lot. That
mm,
affects more than just like your sexual organs. That affects your moods. It affects your ability to lose weight. It affects whether you have hair or not. Like, it affects a lot, and people don't even realize it. Um, but like that's been my major push recently to just try to be healthier and whatnot, because I would really like to not bleed every single day of my life. It's not very comfortable.
It doesn't sound comfortable. I'm going to tell you that from a guy's point of view, that doesn't sound very comfortable.
It's really not. Honestly, the worst thing about it. So like, I will say, I feel like I have better periods than like most women. I don't have a lot of the side effects. Like, I don't have the mood swings, the
Mhm.
bloating. Sometimes I cramp. But I think that's just because now I'm on meds to regulate things, so it's supposed to be kind of normal. So I'm getting some of the side effects. But like, I've never really had any of that. It's just been a horrible long hell. you know? Um so like in that aspect, I can say I'm really grateful. But I don't really want to go back to being tired all the time. And like that's really the worst of it. Like, if anyone's ever been anemic for any reason before, like, you're up for maybe like 2 hours and then you felt like you haven't slept in maybe 24 hours. You're just so drained. Like, I remember my mom always commenting on like how gray I looked just because I had no blood left. And
Jesus.
it's just like one of those things,
Well, no, it's
Um,
always weird as well. Like, not weird. It always hits a little different when it's a parent that tells you,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
I had that happen recently. There was like a good week or two where I wasn't feeling it. I was just every day was just a new sort of hell. And
Yeah.
for me it's a big overthink. I'm a big overthinker, and it can be the littlest of things. It can be the fact of, like, for I'll give just a basic example. Like, I, I say something to someone, they say something back. We've been doing this for over a year. Like, that's it. Boom, boom.
Mhm.
There's always, I send, they send. And if it's spelt differently, if there isn't the right emoji on there, if it isn't the right wording, if like anything that's different from the way that it normally is, immediately my mind will go into overthinking mode, and
Right,
it's
like
just
something's off, something's wrong. What's going on? Like,
like
this person normally puts like the colon 3 face after everything and they
hmm
didn't do it today. The world is ending.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
I'm a big one with that, and it's especially more as I've gotten older. I've noticed it more and more and more.
Mhm.
It's like it's like it's the way that I worded it today was it's heavy because everything is
Yeah.
just like it feels heavy. It's exhausting. It's nonstop. It won't like, and it's one of those things. It's not like I think about it. It's there. It's now just
Mhm.
because of the way that things have happened in my past and the way things have led me to this point now. It's an aspect of it just happens, and it's one of those things where recently I've been having to remind myself, like, this isn't them, this is me. I'm doing this, I'm fucking thinking this, it's not there. This is something that's being made by me, you know.
Well, I'm one of those people that I do the same kind of overthinking, but
Hmm.
as of recent, I've been trying to like see somewhere in the middle for that,
Hmm.
because I'll try to be like, all right, I could be overthinking this, but what I'll do is I'll bring it up and just be like, hey, I'm probably overthinking this. Explain that,
Yeah.
especially if like the person doesn't know that I'm like that, and just be like, hey, this is just how I perceived something. Just like, let me know if this is right or wrong. And I feel like you're finding that a lot more in people just in general these days, because we use the internet a lot more, and you don't get the same type of context through text
Hmm.
that you do talking to someone. You don't
Yes.
hear the tone of voice that they're using. You don't see their facial expressions or their body language. And it's why I think there's just so much discourse just in general these days, because someone could say something and they could just be using the very literal like dictionary meaning of a word, because they're just very direct and that's just how they speak. But their tone of voice could really tell
Mm-hmm.
you, well, are they being kind? Are they being mean? Are they just trying to like give general information? We don't get that with text. So unfortunately, the current climate as it stands, we all kind of view things in a negative sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's well, let's take it from the negative perspective for now, because that's the safer thing to do. If we take it from that point of view, then we know that we won't be hurt because we already know their intentions, when that's not necessarily what's going on, you know. So that's why we use emojis
Mm-hmm.
and text faces and text talk in our stuff, because we're trying to explain and express and display as much context about our mood as possible.
Mm-hmm. And it's like
And
it's
it's so easy to get like
oh
everything
yeah, it's
misunderstood.
exactly right. There's a great one where there's a Key and Peele skit where they do that, and like they're texting each other and they're doing it in different voices. And
Hmm.
it's like, oh, you want to hang out? Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, whatever. I don't care. And it's whatever. I don't care. This motherfucker,
Right.
whatever. I don't care. And like a minute ago, he's like, whatever. I don't care. Like we can do it.
Well, it's
Like,
just like, look at how many ways we could say no, right? And it could mean different things.
oh yeah.
It'd just be like, you ask me a question, I'm just like, nah. So I'm not really into it, and you're just like, no. Obviously, it bothers me, or just like, no, and I'm obviously joking.
Mm-hmm. It's a part of the world that we now live in, I guess.
Well,
Um.
and the other thing too is like a lot of us are sarcastic. It's the humor
Mm,
that we grew up with, right?
honestly, I feel like
That's
it's so.
lost in text.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You are never going to get sarcasm in text.
Hmm. It's like there's times when I've been like I'll try to be sarcastic or like I guess playful, I guess, or like joking, and immediately it's
Hmm.
met like not like that, and it's one of those things where it's like I'm like this is like I'm actually like being like trying to have fun and joke around, but like
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I guess take it seriously and let's fucking and let's not talk for the rest of the day now. Like all right, whatever,
Hmm.
like. But like yeah, it's just it's. I feel like psychology, especially today, if you look at psychology 10 years ago, even
It's so different.
drastically different, right? Like it's
It's
a
so different.
completely different medium, and like one of the ones that and I've been eventually I'm gonna have this just be a topic with someone because
Hmm.
I've hit on it a few different times with people, and it's the fake, and that's all I'm
Yes.
gonna word it as is the fake because it covers
Yeah.
so much of everything.
Well, so like one of the things that I have like a huge issue with, and don't get me wrong, I love that people are bringing awareness to mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I am a huge, huge advocate for making mental health more important.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a bunch of people who do ruin it for others, because some of the stuff that we see that brings awareness is really just nothing more than a romanticization
Yep.
of it. Media is making it out to be prettier than it is.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing about mental health is pretty.
No. Like there's
And
like
that's not to say that it makes you a terrible person. It doesn't. But it's not something to be romanticized. It's not
exactly
something to
there's
be wanting for yourself, because it's not okay.
well and then there's those people that will they'll act like they are so they can get the attention because they want the
Mhm.
attention or they want the sympathy or it's like and it's the let me see if I can find a right way to word this. It's one of the reasons why I hate fucking people.
I
Yeah, that's
mean,
how about
same
that for the how
though.
about that for the fucking way to word it.
Oh, okay, but like same though. It's the
There
whole
are
reason I'm going to school for funeral service, because quite frankly, I don't like people enough to save them.
well, like I fucking love that. That's a great. You need that as like a bumper sticker or something when you do it. Um,
Right.
but like no, like I just it's and this is just like I know there are genuinely good people. I have them in my life.
Mhm.
I mean today I had someone like, and this isn't a humble brag or anything. Someone sent me a message. Just a reminder, you're absolutely fucking marvelous. Just out of fucking nowhere. I don't believe that at all. I think I'm a fucking terrible human being. Um, but like there's so many fucking people are just so just like awful, and I
A lot of it has to do with thinking or not thinking before you do something, you know. Um or not considering what someone else's situation might be at the time that you speak to someone.
mm,
Um you know, there are a bunch of people who genuinely don't think about another person's situation. And
true,
sure, there are a lot of people who are like, well, it's not their business, it shouldn't matter. And you're right, it's not their business, but it still does matter.
exactly.
And the reason it matters is because you don't know if they lost a loved one. You don't know if they're being bullied by friends, family, school, faculty, someone.
Hmm.
You don't know what another person's going through. And even if it's not necessarily to what someone else's standards would be of like difficult or tragic or whatever, it matters to them.
Yeah,
You
like
know, there are a bunch of people that I've met over the years. Just we'll use the art community for example, because the art community unfortunately online is super toxic. um I've run into my fair share of people who they're like, well, how would you understand, or how would you like, why does it matter like what X person is going through? And it's just like, well, it always does.
mm,
It always does. It's just like, just because they don't broadcast it doesn't mean it's not important. Not everyone wants to air their dirty laundry or talk about something really personal because they don't feel maybe necessarily comfortable or safe to do so.
yeah,
And they don't want to seem like they're asking for attention because of the people who do fake it. Because then they're going to just be told, "Oh, it's fake. Get over it."
hmm.
Uh-huh. And it's just
It's just like I
it's
like
difficult.
it. I mean, like I think back to like of course, like I play with my college buddies, two of my best
Mhm.
friends. I play with them almost every single day. Um, and like yeah, we take jabs at each other.
Right, but you know each other, so it's
We
okay to do
when it's
so.
one of those things as well. Like there's a limit. We know what the limit
Yeah,
is, and
right.
it's different than that. Like there was like I used to play Valorant, and I actually stopped playing Valorant at one point because of someone, and that was because they wouldn't fucking
They went
stop.
too far.
They wouldn't stop. And
Mhm.
it was a constant thing, and it's just like you just keep hitting that fucking one note over and over and over again, and it's like eventually what's going to happen is one of two things: one, I'm going to stop playing this; two, if I ever see you in person, I'm going to hit one note over and over and over again as well, and you're not going to like it,
Right.
you know.
It's quid pro quo.
And it was one of those things where like I basically stopped playing the game because of that.
Mhm. Well,
Um,
that's kind of similar to what happened with me in like Overwatch.
I don't blame you with that one.
I had a really similar experience.
Yeah, it's I don't know. And like
Um,
I said, this is going to be one of those days where I have this as a main topic, and it's
yeah,
just going to be
yeah.
it's going to be a big just basically airing out of this is all the people that are fake and this is how they're fake. And the easiest one to do and talk about before we move on to tabletop RPG, because
Mhm.
why not go from something super serious to Dungeons and Dragons, um,
Right?
is and it's a huge one in the streaming community is the fake support.
Yes.
Huge
Well,
fake support.
it goes back to that fake solidarity, right?
Hmm.
You see so many people who pretend to be activists for something, but all their activism is just posting a solid black picture, posting the autism colors, posting pride colors. But what are you doing to help further that? What conversations are you having with people in a civil manner?
Hmm.
Let me reiterate that, in a civil
Civil
manner.
manner. Yep.
You're not going to change everyone's opinion, and that's just a fact.
Hmm.
However, if you can talk with at least one person in a civil manner, that even if you guys never agree, if you can talk to someone and not chew them out and just come to an agreement to disagree, or to just educate them on
Yeah.
why maybe their opinions may be hurtful to some people, that is going to do so much better than just being like, yeah, I support this. And it's really just you putting a picture.
Hmm.
or like a company flying pride color flags for a month.
Yeah,
They're not
exactly.
doing there's no conversation being had. There's nothing going on that is changing what is currently going on in the
Hmm.
world.
It's
It's fake
them.
support.
Exactly. And like I look at it as the main one that I look at it from is like the streaming thing. Like we all have communities. We all have these people that we're friends with.
Right.
And it's one of those things where if I'm at my computer, I have people up. Right now I have 4 friends up. Those are the only I mean I don't think the Summit 1G and XQC are going to be hurt too much by me not having their views when they're at 25 and 80K. You know,
They're doing fine.
yeah,
They're doing good on their
but
own.
like the homies though, I got 4 streams up right now in the background over here on my second monitor, right?
Mhm.
Because if you're on, I have you up. It's that simple. I'm supporting everyone. I'm going to do as much as I can. Now, there's other people that would say that they support everyone. Meanwhile, they're only going to have 1 or 2 people up. And
Right.
then I've heard one of the one that I fucking love the most is my PC can't handle having more than blank tabs open. That's my fucking favorite excuse, and it is an excuse.
It is.
And this is going to be my reasoning why it's an excuse. I
You
have
have a phone, don't you?
I have a fucking laptop.
Mhm. I have a laptop as well, and I can still have multiple streams up on my
Well,
laptop.
that's the thing is like I stream off of my laptop.
So do I. I have an HP Omen, and that's what I stream
I
off
have an
of.
HP Omen too. There we go. See, I mean,
See, we have so much in common already.
right? Like it's just it's such a like you're because it's I can't stand it. I fucking I
Well,
and
all right.
it's
So
who I am.
here's I
It's
but that's totally understandable. Like the reason I can't stand it, right? So
mhm,
it's just like, okay, so say if someone says that they're going to support me and I'm
mhm,
be like I'm going to hold you to that.
yeah,
It's just like I won't expect you to be here every single time. That's unreasonable.
of course.
But like when someone's available, okay, so say for instance, we'll give someone the benefit of the doubt. Say their computer can't handle it. Well, you have a
Hmm.
smartphone, don't you?
Yeah.
Why can't you toss it up on your smartphone? Most people have tablets. Why can't you toss it up on your tablet? I'm not
Hmm.
asking you to talk. You don't even have to watch.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna sit here and say you're gonna support me, please at least try to show up every now and then.
Yeah.
Just check in with me. Even if you can't be there, just talk to me and just ask me how stuff is going.
It's just like and it has like because of course like we were talking about as we're wrapping up psychology like who we are and how we became this way like I very much and I've said it before I'm loyal. I'm the protector, because I played O-line for fucking 9 years, 8 years. I had
Mhm.
that protector role where it's like I got to protect the dudes behind me. That's my whole reason that I'm even in college right now is to play football. So I got to fucking do my job. My job is to protect. My job is to,
Right.
I'm loyal to a fucking T. I'm honest to a fucking T. So it's one of those things where like if you're a part of the group that I've considered like, hey, this is my group. I'm going to support
Mhm.
you. How easy to support? It's very simple. Like I said, I have 4 people up right now. I go between each one of them and I just kind of, make sure I'm in their chat every now and then. Because
Right.
then the
Well,
algorithm keeps it going.
along that topic too, I don't I don't care if anyone spends money. I really don't.
I, I like,
I genuinely hate that mindset of like, oh, you have to spend money to support someone. No, just come talk. Just come hang out.
like,
Just even if you can't even like I said, even if you can't even be in stream,
yeah,
just
I mean,
shoot me a message every
I,
now and then. Be like,
I,
how's it going?
let's see, I've been streaming for probably 2.5 years now. I've,
Mhm.
the only time I've done a actual donation thing was
Mhm.
for Halloween, and that was because it was one of those things where I was using that money at that time to buy the games. Basically, is the way that I was doing it.
Yeah.
But other than that, though, I've never done sub goals. I've never done dono goals. I've never done bit goals. I never ask people to do any of that stuff. I never do, like challenges. I never, it's like I don't care. Like that's not my. That's like if I make money doing this, that's awesome. Do I want to turn this into a thing where eventually, like, this could be like a
A career.
full side time gig or even a career? Yes, of course I do. But I'm not gonna do it by begging. I'm not gonna do it by doing all these different things because that's not how I do
Right.
it. Other people may do it that way, and that's fine. Whatever. I don't care.
What
That's
works
not
for
how I'm
them.
doing it.
Right.
And I
I've got a friend who has been streaming maybe just a bit longer than myself,
mhm.
and I I personally can't stand the begging. I
Mm,
can't.
I
Like to me it comes off as dirty. It comes off as like you're not willing to put the work in yourself, as weird as it sounds.
no. I mean that's
Um
yeah. I completely get it. I mean, like I said,
like
like I do. The only thing that I really do is I shake my shake my titties for biddies, and that's just a stupid little thing that I do.
but
But it's
that's to me that's different
I'm not
because
promoting that.
you're no, you're not promoting it. You're not being like, "Hey, don't forget to sub to me." Uh, you're not doing any of that. You have this quirky thing that people can donate to if they feel like it. Um, and that's basically what it is.
Hmm.
Um, it's just like would I like Twitch to maybe take off someday? Sure. But that's the whole reason I'm in college, right? I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, no, I totally am right there with you with like the whole fake support thing. It's the whole reason I left the same group that you and Billy sort of did.
Hmm.
I was in there for maybe a month and didn't see one person from there at all. And I'm like, but I'm in yours. That's the whole point of this group, right? To help promote
Hmm.
each other and help like. So why aren't you there? And it's just like, you know what? I don't need this. I don't need to be with these people. I'll do better on my own. And I did. I hit affiliate on my own. So I totally understand that.
Exactly. I just it's yeah. Um.
Aris is yelling at me. He's
Hmm.
like, don't you ever use my name, Foo. It sounds so gross hearing you say it. I'm sorry, Billy.
Really.
Billiam.
Oh. All right. We'll quickly move on now. Tabletop
Yes.
RPGs. Um.
Yes.
I've
I've been playing them for far too long.
I've never played them, and it's funny because I was like, I brought up a page and I'm like, what tabletop RPG? And then it came up with games. So I was like, cool, great games. And then I started looking at it. I was like, I know Warhammer. I didn't realize that was a tabletop RPG.
Hmm.
I always think of Dungeons and Dragons immediately. So,
Yep, and that's what most people think about. There are a ton of tabletop RPG games out there, and all of them are really interesting. Some of them aren't worth the time or effort or money, but others are a lot of fun. Um, I've been playing since high school. It's actually how I stay in touch with my high school friends. We still play. We play twice a week. So we have a session on Wednesday, and then on Friday I alternate with one of my roommates for DMing. Um, so we each have a campaign that we run every other week on Friday.
okay.
Um, the system I play most often is Pathfinder. It's
Okay, yeah,
basically
the robot.
Dungeons and yeah,
Mm,
uh, it's basically Dungeons and Dragons, just with a little bit of tweaking.
okay.
It's in my opinion a bit more streamlined than say like 3.5. 3.5 it was an older edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Currently we're on 5.0 or 5 point something at this point because they've added stuff in.
On my screen here it says 5E. Don't know what that
Fifth
means, but
fifth edition.
oh, there you go.
Yep,
We're learning,
3.5
chat. We're
was
learning.
was 3.5 was third edition and a half. um so think of Pathfinder like third edition and a half or third edition 0.75. Um
Good
it
number.
was a bit it was a bit more streamlined than Dungeons and Dragons back in the day.
Okay.
It's definitely more complicated than current day Dungeons and Dragons. Um, but it's more complicated because it actually has rules that defines everything. Don't get me wrong. I think bleh, I can't talk. Fifth edition. I think fifth edition is great,
Hmm.
but it's great for the person who wants to just dip their toes into tabletop RPGs. It's
Okay.
very simple. It is almost too simple, in again, in my opinion. But it makes it easy for people to pick up because there isn't too much of a variation on some classes, and generally you'll find that the rule set makes it really simple too.
One of the coaches that I used to have, he was into Dungeons and Dragons, and he tried teaching me one day, and I just right over my head. I like he was so into it, and he was like so like going over stuff with me, and I'm just like I'm sitting there, and I'm just like I was like, dude, like I'm trying to like figure out what my name is, let alone all this other shit
You
that you're telling
gotta
me about. And I was like, and
you
then of
gotta do
course,
one thing at a time.
well, of course, then the other thing as well is that me being me, I'm like, all right, I was like, I want to be a half robot, half fish, and he's like, you can't do that. I was like, why the fuck? What? I was like, I thought this was
So
Dungeons and Dragons, And then
so
I just,
yeah.
as soon as I found out that there was rules and limitations, immediately I was like, one, I was like, nope. But then secondly, I just immediately like that's all I wanted to do was just fuck with him the entire time. So I was like,
Mhm. Well,
I just
so
want to
like
be
that's
the back half of a dog, but the front half of like a mouse. Can I do that?
so so that's that really nice thing about different tabletop RPG
Hmm.
game or RPG games. Yes, that's like saying ATM machine. But anyways, sorry. That's like the difference between the different tabletop games, right? So each of them have their own rule sets and like what you can do and can't do. And first and foremost, as a DM, you should never be telling your players no unless they're trying to break the game. Each DM is given the tools to create different races and classes within the game themselves. If they want to use just the basic information that Wizards of the Coast provides them,
Hmm.
that's fine. But customize your games. If a person wants to be a half robot, half fish, do it. They have actually races and race builders for that very reason. He should have told you, yes, let's sit down and talk about how we can figure that out.
I could have been a half robot fish.
You could have.
Man,
And like it could
god
have
damn
been
it,
something like
Santangelo.
like it could have been something along the lines of, you were a Sahagin, so you're like a merfish person, right?
Hmm.
But you lost some limbs, so now you have some cool construct prosthetics. You're half robot, half fish. Ta-da! And that's actually a race and an additional like thing that you can add on to any race that was already in the game.
Yeah, see, you've already blown my fucking mind. The other thing I did though was so I sat down with him at one point and when he was
Hmm.
playing with someone, and I kind of played, didn't really know what I was doing, but we were in like a tavern,
Okay.
and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, I was like, does this tavern have food? And he's like, yeah, I guess. I was like, what do they have? And he's like,
Yeah.
and he's just, and he starts listing stuff, and I was like, can I have that? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, my character, can I have like the mutton?
Yeah.
And like,
Well,
and then I got it, and I was like, is the mutton like, is the mutton moist or is it like just dry? And he's like, you're gonna have to roll for that. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to do what now? And he's like, God damn, I can't believe I just said that. And I'm like, I was like, all right, like, roll. And I was like, what's that mean? And he's like, it means it's dry. I want my money back. And like I spent like I completely diverted everything they were trying to do for like an hour just like doing shit like that. And I was like, is wait, I was like, is there can I take a nap? I was like, I just ate. I want to go take a nap. Can I nap here in this tavern? And he's like, yeah, I guess you can. I was like, so wait, this is a B&B D&D? And like I'm just doing shit like that because I was just like, whatever. Like I don't give a fuck.
like
You know?
so like that's the thing, right? Each group that runs tabletop RPGs, like, it's different. You're always going to have different experiences no matter like who you're with or what game they're playing. Some of the DMs that I've had in the past were fantastic and
Mhm.
others were absolutely god right. fucking horrible, right? So like I had one who, not all of us wanted to play a certain race or a certain like selection of races. I was usually that person who was just like, well, I want to do something different. Um, so I was usually the difficult D&D player because I'm like, well, I don't want to do the normal thing all the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, some DMs are just very what we call rules as written or raw. They just do whatever the book says and they don't go outside of that. And then you have other DMs who, rather than using the world that the books set in front of you as options to play from or campaign settings to play from, they'll make their own entire world, make their own places, own like weird metals that people build stuff out of, like new creatures. Um, and like that's part of the fun, right? It kind of goes
That's,
almost it kind of almost goes hand in hand with like building video games.
I feel like if I were to ever fully get into D&D, I feel like I would have to be a dungeon master just because I feel like the stupid shit like that I could easily handle because I'm already thinking about it. You know, it's like
Well,
oh yeah, well this ogre thinks you're cute, and it's like
but
it's
like
like
that's
what the
that's part of
fuck?
the
What?
fun, right? So I'm currently DMing a campaign setting known as Ravenloft.
Okay.
Um, it is not for the new adventure. It's meant to be difficult. It's very much a similar campaign setting style to like if Castlevania were a campaign setting. Like it's that
Hmm.
kind of gothic horror. It's
Okay.
cool. It's one of my favorite settings. Um and what what's been fun about it is we have this one character in the group. His name is Igor.
Eagle.
He is
Yes.
my fiance's laughing now because he knows what story I'm about to
Yes,
tell.
Igor. I already love the name, so I mean,
Right? So Igor is a half elf fighter
okay.
who is lawful neutral, kind of probably going to start on the path to lawful evil. That's just all of the morality stuff, right? So
Okay.
it's what kind of stuff you'd be more likely to do. You're not a chaotic person. You won't just do stuff for like the shits and giggles of it all.
Now, can
But
you be like
you know,
lawful chaotic?
no, because those are polar opposites. So it's like how you can't be good evil, you can't be lawful chaotic. There
Uh,
there are two there are two like things on the axis, but that's what neutral's for.
okay.
Neutral gives you the best of both. Um, but anyways, so Igor is lawful neutral. It means that he follows law rather than chaos, and he's morally gray. So he'll do some evil things, he'll do some good things. He's somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
Um, when we asked him to introduce his character, he gave us like a brief summary. He's just your standard elf-ish type character, and he's like, and like Igor's butt cheeks, justice must be spread. He just announced that as his character's personality.
I fucking love. Oh my god, that may be the greatest thing I've ever fucking heard. And like Igor's
Right?
butt cheeks, justice must be
Justice must
spread.
be spread. It's just one of those things that like only at D&D would this happen.
Like
Um
I just love the idea of just like because like for me like as a dungeon master I would love the idea of just completely throwing everything off the rails, right? So like it's like it's like you and your party are walking down this this creepy hallway and a skeleton just slapped her ass. What do you do? And it's like
but see like
what do you mean? She just slapped your ass? Oh well, now he just slapped your ass.
but like that's the thing, right? Dungeons and Dragons will just use it because it's the most popular, it's the most
Mm,
well known. There are so many possibilities that you can do both as a player and as a DM. And it's just like if you want those like ridiculous off the rails campaigns, you can absolutely have that happen. Um we
that'd be
had we
literally every campaign for me.
but that would be fine.
That would never be a normal campaign. Every campaign I did would be like that. Just out it
But
and out it.
that's perfect because that's where half of the fun happens. You know, we have this other player who in one of our previous campaigns played a kobold, which is like a little tiny lizard dude.
Mhm.
Um
Little
they're
tiny
like
lizard
tiny
dude.
they're like little tiny dragon men.
Okay.
They're cute. All right. So we jokingly called him a goblin with eczema because because he was always tinkering and he lived longer than most kobolds should have.
Mhm.
His name was Scrap. He was the vigilante class. So think of it like if Batman had a class, this is what it would be because you have an alter ego and alias and it changes like your alignment,
Oh, okay.
your morality, and it's kind of cool. Scrap was nothing but a shit post. He was nothing but a walking shit post. Um his alternate ego that was his vigilante side was known as the Phantom Bucket,
The
right?
Phantom Bucket.
And Scrap's whole backstory was that he was part of this whole mining corporation where he was like so supportive of them and like, you know, like super for him. But he didn't realize like they were treating him just like any other kobold and like putting him in horrible work conditions. And like this whole merit system that he had, right? If he did well enough at his job, he got a helmet. Well, it was just a bucket. And so that's where like the Phantom Bucket first started because he started realizing the horrible atrocities that were being put against him as a kobold working for this dwarven mining company, right? And so he ends up getting like this ragtag group of a bunch of other kobolds as like followers. And it just devolves from there. It oh man, like how do I even express just how ridiculous this was? We got to this city because we had an airship
Okay.
and some weird like activists were trying to like shut down transportation of that city because it was like a war between two different countries and all that kind of fun stuff, right? So Scrap decides he's going to go out as the Phantom Bucket with his Bucket Brigade. That's what he called his followers, by the way, the Bucket Brigade.
The Bucket Brigade.
And he goes out there and then is suddenly confused as to why, out of everything, he's being targeted. And no one realizes that he's wanted. The Phantom Bucket is a wanted figure. And someone just blew up the airship landing dock. And in this whole mess, he decides he's going to tell the Bucket Brigade to salvage parts. Well, some guards walk up. He decides he's going to start running. And it just kind of goes from there. One of his Bucket Brigade that he named, what was it, Thud?
Thought.
Yeah, Thud. We realized that apparently Thud always gets the worst rolls, so he needs water wingies just to go bathe. Like all these random shitposty things happen with Scrap. The same player, we were playing Vampire the Masquerade, which is another tabletop role playing game. He decides, and sometimes I love this player, sometimes I'm just like, oh my god, do you have a creative bone in your body? He decides he's going to play a were hyena,
A were
but his
hyena.
name is a were hyena. But you've seen The Lion King, right?
Yeah.
He named his were hyena Ed. So I'm sure you can only guess where this is going. So Ed is part of a circ group that is run by a demon, and he is trying to get more people to come in for patronage and collecting souls a little bit here and there on the way. So Ed decides he's gonna try to do this all by himself this one time. Well, he's in the middle of town. He sets up his tent. He tries to put himself in a cannon and fire himself out of the cannon. The cannon malfunctions. It blows up. Everyone in the tent dies except him. And now hunters are after him. So it was funny at the time because we kind of accidentally blurred the lines between languages
Mm-hmm.
for a second. Like it was a very quick misunderstanding. What he said was correct, but we didn't register as correct. No one did, even him. So this hunter started to confront him and was just like, "Are you Ed?" And he was just like trying to pretend he didn't speak English. So he's just like, "Mi nombre es." But nombre in Spanish is name. But for some reason, we all mixed it with French, and we're just like, "Your number is?" And it kind of just went from there to him running, getting shot in the butt. Only for him to then die later on in a brothel with a succubus.
Huh.
He got the good suck
He got
and the bad suck.
he got that good bad suck.
Good bad
Oh
suck.
my god.
Like this stuff happens all the time. We
I
also had
fucking
this one
love
other
it.
player. We had this one other player who is unfortunately a problem player. And what I define as a problem player is someone who intentionally learns everything about the rule system so that way he can break it and make it impossible for the DM to actually do their job.
That's just annoying.
It's very annoying. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who do stuff like this. But,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, we had this one problem player. And my fiance was the one running the campaign at the time. And he was doing some like eldritch stuff in this temple. And this problem player, thinking that he was going to be the smart cookie here, right? Decides, all right, well, I'm going to touch this cool statue because I think it does something neat. And 3 times, my fiance warns him, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Whenever a DM says, "Are you sure you want to do that?" maybe don't do that. He's trying to save you from your own stupid.
Maybe don't.
Um, so he does it anyways. And then in basically what is considered a blink of an eye, the statue snaps him up, and it's basically like, think of it kind of almost like an Iron Maiden. He gets locked in there and he's exsanguinated. He's gone. His character's gone. Goodbye. He activated a trap successfully after being warned 3 times. Maybe don't.
Jesus.
And he's then sitting there just like, "Why did this happen? Why didn't you warn me?" And we're just sitting around the table just laughing because we're like, "Bruh,
Bro.
you knew.
Oh
You
man.
had every warning possible."
I
This is also the same character who has had a pyramid dropped on him by a god in the game because he messed up way too much.
had a pyramid dropped on him. Um
Pyramid. Mhm.
one of the ones I saw recently, while looking through TikTok, was there's been a bunch of different ones where it's like they're asking like people who like know the rules and know the books really well and everything, like questions, like, and one of the ones they
Yeah.
asked was about like summoning creatures or something like that.
Okay.
And apparently the rules say like the distance you can summon them or like something like that. It doesn't say at what height you can summon them. So then they were like breaking it down. I was like, technically, you could summon a cow like 70 feet in the air and just drop it on someone because it doesn't classify the height at which you can summon it, like that sort of thing.
So
And I'm sitting there, and I'm like,
so
wait, what? And like they completely broke it down, and it's like, so if it goes that high, this times this is that, this times this is this, it does this much damage, so therefore it would do this, which means it can basically kill anything that you can like. And I'm sitting there like,
yeah. So there is all right. So like I'm terrible at math, but I
mm-hmm,
still play it because I think it's fun. But there are rulings on that kind of stuff. It does sort of specify. Again, it kind of depends on like which tabletop game you're playing.
okay.
But again, we'll use D&D for an example. A certain spells tell you what range you have to cast something.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, a fairly well-known spell would be like Ray of Frost. It's just a freezy ray. It does cold damage.
Freezy.
Right? So it has a certain amount of range that you can aim and hit someone with it. When it comes to summoning creatures, whenever they give you a range, you can summon that creature up to X amount of feet away.
Okay.
Or if you run your system off of squares, so many squares. But that also does include the vertical axis.
Oh, okay.
It Most people don't think about that, but it's still feet away from you. Like 50
Okay.
feet up in the air is still 50 feet, you know?
Yeah, because the way that
Um,
they were talking about it was that like it was classified as like distance in front of you, not height. So like they were
no.
breaking it down and they were doing all the math, and I'm sitting down there, I'm like, this is fucking wild. Like you could
So
telling me that like I could be like a warlock and summon like be like go up against like the god dragon and be like, oh, what's up, bro? And then be like, all right, hold up a sec, let me just
demon cow,
it's like bunch, okay, I'm gonna summon 7 demon cows at 700 feet above you, and hold up a second, and there they
and
are.
you're dead,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're dead. Cool. All right, moving on, guys.
right? So the thing with tabletop role playing games, rules are technically up to the dungeon master or game master's discretion. They
Okay.
can that's generally what rule 0 is. It's what the DM says goes. When I run a game, I try to incorporate both the in-game rules plus real-world logic. I try to make it as immersive as possible, so I try to apply like real-world physics and logic to it.
Hmm.
So, for example, like the summoning thing, it's distance from caster
Okay.
is how it's supposed to be written. So, distance from caster does not mean just in front. It could mean to the side, behind, above, below.
Fair enough.
You know, it, regardless of whether it's a tabletop game or not, it is still a 3D imaginary world. So, it's distance from the person casting is how I look at it. And to me, that seems more logical because your party members aren't always going to be in front of you. They might be to the side of you. They might be behind you a bit, you know. Um so that's how I would personally rule it because to me it makes
That
a
I mean
bit more
that makes
logical sense.
that makes sense. I just love the idea of like
Yeah.
just like being like, yeah, you didn't tell me where I could summon this cow, so
I'm summoning it up in the air and it's going to do falling damage to whatever is underneath it at the time or the cow will just splat and I'll just summon a new one in like 5 minutes.
exactly right.
um yeah, no, a lot of the rules are kind of like that. It's usually rules is written with DM discretion
Okay.
because some scenarios are just going to come up that you wouldn't think of. Like I was doing a quick one-off for the night with a couple of friends because we didn't have everyone there for the night, so we didn't want to continue what we were doing in story.
Hmm.
So we did just like a quick one-off silly campaign. So I decided to play a centaur barbarian.
Okay.
Well, horses can't really go downstairs. At least not well. I went upstairs and then I had to look at the DM and just be like, "Can I go downstairs? Can centaurs go downstairs?" And everyone just had an existential crisis at that moment trying to figure out if I can eventually leave where we went.
Yeah, right. Because technically you're not a horse, but technically you are a horse.
Right. Like I got little hooves and ankles that are like a horse, but I've got people brain. But
Do
but
do do do
but
do
it
do do.
but it's also barbarian brain. So would I really be smart enough or not? Can I go down these stairs?
That's fucking hilarious.
Right? No, tabletop RPGs are like probably some of my favorite like hobby pastimes because you can meet just a bunch of different people. You can play it online with other people or like, if you have people who live nearby, you can invite people over and draw these cool maps and put them out on the table and get like little figures to track stuff.
No, that was the thing
Or
that was the thing I found interesting when I was looking. The Warhammer was considered a tabletop, which of course I should have guessed that it was a tabletop. I mean, but I mean like so, um, Warhammer is an English game. It's made in England.
Mhm. Mhm.
Games Workshop is all English. There's an area in God, I can't remember if it's I think it's Oxford. It's
Okay.
not London because I only went to London a couple of times. So I used to go to Oxford a lot. I think it's in Oxford. They have a shop in Oxford. So you're just walking down the street and like there's just a little fucking cubby and there's the main like not the main but one of the Games Workshop's stores. And I used to go in there with like my mom and dad all the fucking time. Never would buy anything. But like just
Yeah.
go in there and just see all the different
It's cool to
stuff. And
look.
it's just like watching the people play, looking at the like thing. Like I even have I don't know where it is. Oh, he's right there. I got a little like Wolf's Bane, Space Wolf from Warhammer
Yeah.
40k Funko Pop up there. Um, but so when I saw that, I was like, okay, I kind of like that's the only tabletop that I've actually like ever fully seen and been like, yeah, I think this is what I could get into. Because every time I see D&D, I always just think of like, there's no way that people are gonna want to play with me after for an hour of me just going. I really gotta pee. Can I leave the? Can my half fish robot leave to go pee? Also, how does a half fish pee robot pee? Do I have to roll for this? Like, is this like it just like comes out of my finger or like like I feel like eventually me being that sort of dumb will just get tiring for someone. So it's just like I'm just like yeah, nah, I'm good. Like I'll keep that stupidness to myself. Um,
Oh no, you're fine. So like again, that's very much a like a DM discretion thing. That's a group discretion thing. Some some groups prefer to have that like weird level of realism, right?
yeah, see,
So
I
some
would
would just
be
be like
nope.
some do decide to be like, all right, well, the average person pees every 2 to 4 hours. It's been 2 hours. Have you peed? Do you need to pee? Like
See, that's what I would
some
look at him.
people are like that.
That's what I'd look at him and be like, well, you see, the average person does, but mine's a half fish robot, and when they were putting in my robot parts, they actually pushed it up against my bladder, so actually I need to pee like every 20 minutes tops. I just off the cuff would just be saying shit like that, just
But like
nonstop.
that's perfect. And like something that I always tell people, regardless of like whether they're intimidated by the role playing aspect or the math aspect or just the rules in general,
Hmm.
do what makes you comfortable first. Just start with, all right, well, if you could be any class, what would you want to be? And start with like self inserts. Basically be yourself, but in a fantasy land.
Okay.
Um, or sci-fi or superhero
Hmm.
depends on again the game. Um, but I always try to ask people, what do you usually play in like a video game? If you could pick a class, like if it's an MMO or something, what do you usually pick? All right, well, this class does that.
See, but see, like immediately because like my brain just fucking started running. I want to be a half fish robot that's a
Hmm.
tank, but I'm a pacifist. But if I need to, I will fight. But I
Okay,
primarily just hug and kill people with that.
okay. So I already can tell you an answer, just from my 15 years of playing. Way too long now that I think about it. Holy shit. Um, but you know, you'd be a Sahagin with a construct subtype because of the parts that have been replaced due to whatever traumatic past you've had.
Hmm.
Um, and perhaps you're either a monk or a paladin who has taken a specific order of nonviolence, maybe even a cleric, depending on if you want to do more magic or not. But all three of those classes can generally be bulky and tanky. And rather than focusing on using weapons, you focused in unarmed combat and specifically the combat mechanic of grappling. So you grab people, you hug them to death.
I'm just fucking getting an image of a fucking half robot fish hugging a dragon to death.
um, like the possibilities are genuinely endless.
Oh, I really shouldn't play this game.
If you ever want to, you can totally sit in on a session with us every now and then. Like I said, we play on Friday, Wednesdays and Fridays. Um, I would be more than happy to have you sit in with us and just experience what our sessions are like because sometimes they're ridiculous.
See, like that's
Um,
like I feel like I would want to be in a group of people that like, and this is just me being me. I would want to
mhm.
be in a group of people that are taking it semi serious, but I'm the only person that isn't.
So all of our group, like there are times where we're like, no, we really want to do story, and then there are other times where it's just like I said, it's nothing but a shit post. It is the memeiest shit you
I
could
mean,
possibly run
even
into.
like doing story. It's like okay, we go into this area.
Hmm.
There's a bunch of skeletons. What are we gonna do? And it's like, immediately I'm just gonna
I'm gonna
raise my
play it like I'm gonna play it like they're the fucking xylophone.
I'm gonna raise my hand because I'm a child. Be like DM
Hmm.
DM DM. Yes. It's like, can I make out with that one over there?
And that's what would earn you at our table the exclusive pin of monster fucker.
It's like that skeleton looks cute. I just want to say it right now. Sorry, everyone else is here. That one's mine. Can I make out with him and then bear hug him to death? Don't ask why.
So
Just a thing I want to do.
so I have another funny story for you that's kind
Okay,
of along those lines.
love it.
We had one person, he didn't really play, so he didn't have a character sheet, but sometimes he would like to sit in our sessions with just kind of like a joke NPC type-ish character.
Okay.
And he was allowed to do this because he was kind of one of those punishment characters for said problematic player that I mentioned before. Well, he had a drow, which is a dark elf that we all referred to as Bubba Drow. Um and anytime that this problem player would start acting up or doing whatever, you just hear the person who played the lovable NPC of Bubba Drow in the background being like, "So, hey baby, what you doing tonight?" And it would creep him out every single time because he's very like painfully straight, and the person who played Bubba Drow is very flamboyantly bi. And it was always so
Oh, I
funny.
fucking love it.
And like, like that's part of the fun about D&D, right? So, um it's just meant to have fun with friends. Yes, you can have story and you guys can take it seriously, but the most important thing that I think people should take away from tabletop RPGs is just have fun. Just do whatever you want because it's you with a group of friends. Now, there are things that are also known as like Dungeons and Dragons League.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's like put on by sponsored people of Wizards of the Coast. Those generally tend to be serious
Oh, they would be so
because
mad at me.
they would.
It'd be
And the
so
reason
much
for
fun.
that is because
It'd be
it's
so
people
much.
who don't know each other who meet up at like the local comic shop or the local community center or whatever to sit down for several hours and play a game.
Oh, bad. I'm gonna make so many
Those
people mad in so
those
many hours.
people, as you guys call it, get so sweaty about the
Oh,
game.
I love it.
Um,
We enter this cave. Husky, what do you do? I don't know how long
I
I'm allowed to be.
scream.
I don't know how long I'm supposed to be out of water. Yeah. Does anyone else know the answer to that? Like, it's like you
I'm
go
going
into
to stand at the mouth of this tunnel and see if I have an echo by saying echo.
I'm going to go take a nap in the cave.
This
Not
rock
telling,
looks particularly comfy.
not telling you where. Just gonna go in and take a nap. Well, Husky's dead. No, 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 no. Nap.
Nap.
It's like
Light sleep.
the entire party's dead, and I'm just like, it's like, all right, well, I wake up from my nap, and I'm being, why am I the small spoon to this ogre? Question.
But like, yeah, no, there are so many things that you can do with tabletop RPGs, and I genuinely recommend that everyone try it once. Now, there used to be a really dark past to Dungeons and Dragons and Vampire the Masquerade. Um, for quite a while, people had the really unfortunate reputation of it being like Satanism shit,
Satanism.
devil worship.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a,
Um,
oh god, what the fuck was it called? Was it is the it's a movie made by like a bunch of kids. Was it called Dark Dungeon? I think something like that.
I think so.
It's something like that, and it's just like it's the most ridiculous bullshit. Like it was like bunch of people who made a bunch of books, and then they like let like anyone make them. I want to say JonTron did a freaking video about it.
I You might have. I think I know what you're talking about. But Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role playing games had a really bad reputation for kind of a long time. A lot of Christian and Catholic people banned it in households back in like the 70s and 80s, um, because of a really unfortunate circumstance involving, a teen girl and their dungeon master. I think they were playing Vampire the Masquerade. Um, and I don't remember what was going on in the family or whatever, but basically the chick was very unhappy with her family, so the guy and who was running the game went to her house with her and murdered her family. And that was really just the tip of the iceberg that really set D&D back for so many years. If you played it, you didn't talk about it because
Wow,
man, would it put you in like the worst corner of society. Everyone thought of it that way too.
that yeah, I can only imagine. Like Jesus, um,
hmm It had a shitty reputation for a long time. And even way after the fact, I looked at my mom in high school because I started playing it like my freshman year.
mhm.
I'm like, hey, I've got a bunch of friends who play D&D, and she's just like, like it should be fine. It's not not a bad thing.
Oh boy, it's so wild. Well,
um, but
thank you. Oh,
it's just one of those things.
yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, I was gonna kind of start wrapping it up a little bit.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, thank you for coming on, and
yeah.
God, we fucking talked about so much, so many different things. Love it.
I know, they're kinda all over the place.
Yeah, we went from freaking the joy of retro gaming to the staleness of modern gaming to you know hitting on psychology and how shitty people are to me being a half robot fish whose robot parts have pushed my bladder to the point where I have to pee every 15 minutes and I want to make out with skeletons. We've been all over the place. I do appreciate you coming on the podcast, though. I really do.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I thought that was really nice of you to even offer it, so I
of course,
appreciate it.
yeah. Like I said, I love getting new people on, and also I do a terrible job most times of actually getting people on. So, um, I was glad that you immediately were like, yes, and this is what we're talking about. Um,
I just, figure might as well try it. I part of the reason that I started Twitch in general was like I wanted to be better about talking with people.
yeah.
Um I don't intend to be super social ever, except for when I'm working, because like I said, I'm going to school for funeral service. Um, so I'm not exactly the best people person.
Well, I mean, just think about it like this, though, right?
But
Like, all the people that you talk to, at least they're gonna listen to you.
the dead don't talk back.
Exactly.
No, but part of the thing is just like I've been super exposed to the funeral
Hmm.
environment. Um, I'm 29 and I've been to 32, going on 33 funerals this week. You know,
Wait,
um,
this week?
I've Yeah, I'm going to another funeral this week, so it's a thing. um,
Damn.
but it's a field that I'm comfortable with, and while I hate people, it's one of those few subjects that I don't mind helping people with it
Hmm.
because it's something unfortunate that everyone unfortunately does have to experience someday. It can be really hard to deal with. Um, I maybe probably should have mentioned this like earlier in the podcast, and I'm totally sorry about that. But like part of the reason that I ended up wanting to get into the field, I lost my dad at a really young age. And I just remember how well loved he was by like the
Hmm.
community because like so many people knew him. And I saw how much effort the funeral home put into trying to make things as easy of a transition as it can be, considering what was going on. And something that I've just noticed over the years with funeral service and just going to funerals in general, people are generally too sad to be assholes.
True.
And if they are going to start something, it's not with the people running the funeral service 9 times out of 10. It's with their own family, and they won't generally do it until after the funeral is done. So by that point, my hands are washed with the situation. But it's one of those few things that like I have some sympathy for because I've been through it a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Oh damn. Well,
Yeah,
I
it's
will.
just one of those things.
Well, well, I will leave the link to your Twitch channel
Oh, thanks.
in the description down below. Do you want me to leave Instagram or Twitter?
You can do what you wish. I don't really mind either way.
Okay. Well, it
I know
was it was.
I do these things as a hobby. If it supports the things I do, then cool. If it doesn't, also cool.
I make sure to go check her out. She plays all sorts of fun games. She plays Final Fantasy, and my favorite one is when you do your art. I know it's a toxic community, but I do love watching you do the art stuff because it's wild watching it because it's. I think back to like some of the art stuff that I did when I was in high school, and then I'm seeing you do this, and I'm like, I don't even fucking come close to this. Like, and I thought I was good. Like, holy shit, you know. So I love it, but
Oh, thank you.
well, yeah, like I said, though, thank you yet again. One last time,
Yeah.
thank you yet again for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you asking, honestly.
Well, so depending on where you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, stay out of trouble, stay safe, and we will talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye-bye.